Life is extra surreal for French speakers right now because in French, phonetically, ChatGPT sounds exactly like cat I farted. Chat GPT. That's how you say it. So everyone on TV, in the news, people are going, cat I farted, over and over again with a straight face. Is cat I farted gonna steal your job? How are schools dealing with cat I farted? Lawyer caught using cat I farted. It's incredible. Chat GPT.
Welcome to This Dumb Week, a weekly live Twitter space hosted by Alex Marinos and yours truly, Dr. Rollergator. Available in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, and others. Alex, welcome back. Have you had a sufficiently dumb week?
It's been pretty dumb, but I'm looking for a top-up.
All right. Well, excellent. Well, I want to start off with a correction/apology. I was mistaken last week. When I was preparing material, I stated that Dean Ball was leaving OpenAI, and I had just gotten myself confused. There were a plethora of other people who were leaving, and I confused a profile on Dean Ball with an announcement of Dean Ball leaving. So I just want to make sure that I correct that mistake right out the gate, even though probably nobody remembers it. I just want to make sure that...
I did. I was looking all week. I was like, what the hell, man?
I apologize for that mistake.
I expect anyone to misinform you but you, Gator. You let me...
Listen, it will happen again, but I can't promise it's going to be AI related.
Look, let's just hold on to the apology. Maybe he'll leave sooner or later, and then you can just say it was a premonition or something.
Fair enough. I'm not premonition, just the catalyst. I'm the catalyst for most changes in the country.
I see. Yes, it was. What is it? A self-fulfilling prophecy or something?
Yes. Okay. Well, Alex, we'll kick off some of the scattershot news that we start every episode with. Stuff that we don't have major connections to other stories or larger topics.
Now to the new developments in the urgent manhunt for a mass suspect terrorizing people in Philadelphia. Authorities say they have now identified a 22-year-old man accused of chasing men and women while wearing a chilling mask and asking, "Are you ready to die?" He remains on the loose. Here's ABC's Rhiannon Alley.
Tonight, authorities in Philadelphia are asking the public to help them find the masked man terrorizing people across the city, now identifying him as 22-year-old Zymir Hughes.
If Zymir Hughes was trying to scare people, make them run, who's scared now? Who's running now?
Police today releasing new video of their alleged suspect in that disturbing doll face mask. They say he harassed 15 to 16 people on city streets before allegedly chasing this female jogger.
You think it's funny to scare people? Well, get ready to get scared by us, because we got the handcuffs. We got the jail cell.
Officials say Hughes travels for work and could be on the West Coast. Whit police believe Hughes filmed these encounters for social media content. He is now facing harassment and assault charges. Whit?
Rhiannon Alley for us tonight.
So there you go, Alex. There's your first story for the week. A masked doll-faced man chasing people in Philadelphia.
You do that in a monk dress, and people just think you want them to reflect on life, and you do that in a doll face mask, and all of a sudden you get the press conference. I don't know. It's confusing.
Are you referring to like the Hare Krishnas in New York who just throw it give you the beads, who try to get donations after?
Yeah, it's like, are you? I don't know. Am I? Who is?
I will most assuredly say that even if I make preparations for my own death, I am certainly not ready to die at any point.
Right.
One of my goals in life is to never die, and so far I've been very successful at this task. I've accomplished a high degree of not dyingness so far.
This is the sort of task where you never know that you failed, right?
I will probably not know that's the hope that I will never know that I've failed. All right, moving on to the second story here this week, Alex.
Authorities say two young men, a Penn State grad and a former Penn State student, were the leaders of a cocaine ring for students. Authorities say they traveled to Philadelphia and New York City to get their cocaine haul. Here's Matt Rivers tonight.
Tonight, officials say you're looking at the faces of the two alleged ringleaders accused of running a major cocaine operation through multiple Penn State frat houses, allegedly making trips to New York City and Philadelphia to refill their supplies. Agostino Abatiello, a Penn State grad, turning himself in this morning. Police say he and former student Thomas Robinson brought in kilos of cocaine at a time in 2023 and 2024.
There was nothing junior or childlike about this type of conduct. This was an upper-level trafficking organization for this region in Pennsylvania.
Officials say Delta Upsilon and Sigma Chi frat houses, both off-campus, were used to package the drugs, part of what authorities called a hazing ritual.
In fact, we found a pattern of events that showed cutting and bagging cocaine was, for some pledges, an indoctrination into the Delta Upsilon and Sigma Chi fraternities.
13 current and former students charged in total, 5 with felony counts of corrupt organizations and conspiracy, the rest with misdemeanors. A 14th person, Pittsburgh-based attorney Paul Robinson, also charged with interfering with the investigation. He's the father of the other alleged leader, Thomas Robinson.
David, Penn State University saying in part that they are horrified by these accusations, adding, quote, criminal activity, including hazing, has no place at our institution. David?
Matt Rivers tonight.
Now, Alex, it didn't say what they were in college for, but I'm wondering if an MBA was part of any of their degrees that they were chasing, because, I would say that at least you might get an honorary MBA for, establishing a successful cocaine business, because that's a difficult environment to be a startup in.
That's at least some credits, I'd say. Yes, definitely.
And the odds are stacked against you, and I just think if you can kick off a successful enterprise under those types of conditions, that you should be given an honorary something.
Look, I mean, at this point, drug dealing might be the last to go when AI takes all the jobs. So I feel like there's something there.
Woman accused of plotting to kill Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is sentenced to 6 years in prison. A Massachusetts woman who told police that she brought homemade firebombs to the U.S. Capitol to kill Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was sentenced on Tuesday to just over 6 years in prison. Riley English, a 26-year-old transgender woman, says she was in the grips of a mental health crisis and abusing drugs when she drove to Washington in January 2025 and told Capitol Police that she was there to kill Bessent on the day of his Senate confirmation. Quote, I never wanted to hurt anyone, she told U.S. District Judge Rudolph Contreras. I'm not a political person. I'm not a violent person. Contreras, who was nominated to the bench by Democratic President Barack Obama, sentenced English to 6 years and 1 month of imprisonment, followed by 3 years of supervised release. English has remained jailed since her arrest and will get credit for the nearly 20 months that she already spent in custody. She pleaded guilty in March to 2 weapons charges. Quote, you've had a very difficult life, Contreras told English. Hopefully, the progress you've made in jail to this date has set you on the right path. Nobody was injured, and Contreras said her plan to harm Bessent had an exceedingly low or non-existent chance of success. Bessent wasn't at the Capitol when English arrived on January 27, 2025. The Molotov cocktails that English brought to the Capitol appeared to be incapable of igniting, the judge noted. Prosecutors had recommended a prison sentence of 10 years and 1 month for English. Assistant U.S. Attorney Brendan Horan said English had been planning the, quote, attempted political assassination for at least a month at a time when the threat of politically motivated violence had been mounting in the U.S. This is not a chance encounter or an impulsive act, Horan said. The case against English fits a pattern of politically motivated violence that has plagued the U.S. over the past decade. In a letter addressed to the judge, Bessent said he worries the country cannot survive this assault. Quote, political violence is an attack on the rule of law and on representative government itself, Bessent wrote. It also deprives our country of service by talented men and women with the ability and integrity who may reasonably decide that no job is worth the threats to themselves and their families. English's prosecution drew comparisons to the case against California resident Sophie Rosk, who was sentenced last October over the 8 years in prison for attempting to assassinate U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh at his Maryland home. Prosecutors had recommended a prison sentence of no less than 30 years for Rosk, a transgender woman. They appealed Rosk's sentence by the U.S. District Judge Deborah Boardman, calling it unreasonably lenient. Defense attorney Maria Jacobs said English was, quote, terrified and traumatized by fears of what would happen to transgender people under the second Trump administration. Now, Alex, I have a question. Why Scott Bessent? Out of all the people,
it's good you clarified that this was when he was being sworn in, because otherwise I was preparing to make some quip about her having strong feelings about bailing out the yen with euro reserves, but I don't. I feel that's probably why. But you tell me, what would happen to trans people if somebody killed a high-ranking member of the cabinet for this reason? What do you think was going to be the outcome?
I'm not 100% sure, sir. I don't know what positive or negative things could happen to trans people as a result of assassinating Scott Bessent. I assume that there's other people who might be, not that I'm saying any should be targeted, just that they would be more coherent of targets. I'll use the word worthy, but I don't want to suggest that I'm advocating for anything.
Isn't Bessent gay anyway? Whatever. Or am I just?
No, I think he is actually. That seems correct.
Oh,
you'll have
the T's have turned on the G's here. What is happening? I don't know. Maybe Soros would finally see the error of his ways and stop funding the people who killed his associate. You do know this, right?
What was that, sir?
I must have said it. You do know that before his recent turn onto being a MAGA Trump whatever, Bessent was best known for working with George Soros to blow up the British pound.
I was not aware of that. That I did not.
Yeah, he was. There was
any major history on him.
There were 3 people who were involved with that famous takedown of the British pound. It was Scott Bessent came up with the idea. Then I think Druckenmiller was the guy he was working for, who took the idea out of Soros. And Soros basically said, "Why invest this little? Let's 10x it or something along those lines."
All right. Well. As long as he's a man with talent.
I'm not 100% sure on Druckenmiller, but this story, as I'm describing it, came out of the mouth of Bessent, so it's about as accurate as he was.
Well, are you prepared right now for this next article, Alex? I know that's just an open-ended question. Are you ready for this next article? Here, where just the headline alone, Alex, I think is going to be very striking to you. Teenager is killed for his testicles by gang who saw social media video saying they were worth 100,000 pounds. That's the currency pounds, not that they weighed 100,000.
I'm still not tracking. Please continue.
A teenager. A teenager was killed for his testicles by a gang who saw a social media video claiming they were worth 100,000 pounds, police said. Rehan was just 17 when the gang allegedly murdered him and cut off his testicles, believing they could be sold for a huge sum on the black market. Police said the group had been inspired by a social media video falsely claiming human testicles were extremely valuable. Officers arrested the prime suspect, Zoheb Khan, a 20-year-old business student, and Amir Quresh, 18, and detained 3 minors. Investigators allege that Khan recruited the group and convinced them that the testicles could fetch about 12 million Indian rupees on the black market in the Gulf. Khan allegedly posed as a doctor to convince his associate that he knew how to remove the organs. Police said he bought a white apron, stethoscope, and thermometer online and used them while training the group. Rehan was a street vendor who sold pens and keychains at a market near Ikabul Medan in Bhopal, central India. 2 minors approached him at his stall on August 6th and offered him roughly £1 to help with an alleged fight near Kadalapura on Lower Lake. They allegedly lured him to a secluded area and stabbed him repeatedly with a blade. According to Ayusha Gupta, the Deputy Commissioner of Police of Bhopal, 4 of the accused participated in the murder while Khan guided them on a video call. They kept Rehan's testicles packed in ice for 2 days while trying to find a buyer, police said. When the efforts failed, Khan allegedly ordered the group to dispose of the organs in separate lakes. Police recovered Rehan's body at Lower Lake near Dhobi Ghat in August 10th. They identified him from a tattoo 5 days after his mother reported him missing. Post-mortem examination found fatal injuries and confirmed that his testicles had been removed. Police have been since recovered the blade they believe was used to kill Rahan and deployed divers to search the waters for his testicles. Now, they don't say what the going rate for testicles is, but I'm imagining that it's not $100,000, Alex.
Gator, I've just sent you a tweet and I've attached it to the space. I feel it's a perfect
All right.
chaser for this one. Just read the thing as it comes.
Harvard just paid $53 million after its morgue sold donated body parts on the black market. Yes, this was something that was originally going to be on the on the list, but it did not. I failed to put it on. Harvard Medical School has agreed to a $53 million settlement over a scheme where donated human bodies were carved up and sold for profit instead of being used for medical training. This might be where they got the idea from, honestly. The morgue manager and others allegedly dissected the remains.
The same social media posts.
And shipped body parts across state lines like inventory. Buyers could even show up with cash and pick out the specific body parts they wanted. Families who donated loved ones believing the bodies would help train future doctors had no idea the remains were being treated as a product. People are calling it modern-day desecration and saying the rabbit hole is even darker than the headlines. So, Alex, this as a side note, I don't know if you've ever listed yourself as a organ donor on your driver's license, but this is something I've long term believed in ever since I was eligible to drive and got my first driver's license, that I will never have that as an advertisement on my driver's license, even if I told my family I would be okay with it.
They might as well say, do you understand incentives? No.
Yes. This is one of my long-held beliefs, and I've held that ever since I was eligible to drive. It was just common sense to me that I would not advertise such. I might not have understood all of human behavior when I was 16, but I understood enough of it. Yes. I understood enough of it by that point. All right, Alex. We got some bigger stories to move into. This is still in the scattershot, though. Former Fauci advisor David Morens pleads guilty to concealing COVID-related records. I'm not sure, Alex, if you're going to have a lot to comment. Maybe you will, because you follow these things much more closely than I do. David Morens, a former senior advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci during the COVID-19 pandemic, pleaded guilty in federal court on Tuesday to a charge of conspiracy to defraud the United States. Morens, who worked under Fauci at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, was accused of concealing federal records related to coronavirus research. He was indicted in April for allegedly trying to hide email exchanges about that research by using his personal email instead of government email. Quote, by pleading guilty today, Dr. Morens has taken responsibility for what he did, and he will continue to do so, his legal counsel, Tim Belovitz, told NPR in an email Tuesday. Morens has apologized in previous hearings for his handling of federal records. The coronavirus research in question has come under fire by Senator Rand Paul and other Republicans who have claimed without proof that coronavirus that caused the pandemic came from a lab in China, and have accused Fauci and Morens of covering that up. Now, I would like to state here for the record that NPR is doing a little bit of disingenuous writing in narrative in these sentences. Now, Alex, we've discussed over time that at least I don't know about you, have yet to see conclusive proof that it was a lab leak that started the pandemic, but that the U.S. government, as of recent, has actually declared officially that it is their belief that it came from a lab in Wuhan, China, that it is the official policy of the United States federal government, the CIA in particular, that is the origin of the coronavirus. So what proof does NPR require outside of the government assertion that is exactly their official conclusion of where it came from?
I think given NPR, I think that probably moved them more towards the zoonosis camp, if it could be possible.
Is that only because it was the Trump CIA that declared it where the origin, or
that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Did you, by any chance, have chance to see the message I sent you before the body parts one?
Yes.
Oh,
that our
your favorite
good
people
friends
have an exclusive interview.
Yes. And I'm sure they cover all of the important topics that have been showering the news lately about those gentlemen. So many researchers agree that the weight of the available evidence suggests the virus emerged naturally. And like I say, science is the study of questioning how many people in the scientific community believe something is possible. That is how you conduct science, Alex. Fauci, who played
you take a poll.
Role. Yeah, you take a poll of the people in the science to see what they think might be likely. That's what science is.
So the people in the science are the people who take polls of people in the science. Is that the science?
Yeah.
Am I following correctly?
Yes,
that's right. So for example, if you were to do science on the corruption in the Catholic Church, for example, you would take a poll of the people in the Catholic Church and just see what they
No. If it's scientific, you take a poll of the scientists who study the Catholic Church.
Right. No, I guess I'm just kind of trying to figure out, like, in the Middle Ages when science was sort of first floated as a concept, as a counterweight to the oppressive sort of claims to expertise of the priesthood.
Right.
When people said, no, we won't have a small cadre of elderly bumblefucks telling us what is true. We will conduct experiments and figure it out that way.
Well, I was thinking that after you burn someone at the stake for being a heretic, you took a poll.
That's right.
To see what the sentiment was.
I mean, look, all the people in the Spanish Inquisition that nobody expects, surely are scientists of a kind, and therefore can be polled. Surely. Anyway, my point is that, like, sorry, just to because this is beyond the joking, it's kind of serious. Like, science was supposed to take us away from having these sort of elders who, by consensus between themselves, define what reality is. That's literally what science was supposed to do. And here we are, being told that we have to, science is asking, Peter Hotez and Tony Fauci what's true. Like, well, it just, like, what failure in education leads someone to write that?
Let's think about how beautiful the logic of this sentence is to include in here. Quote, many researchers agree that the weight of the available evidence suggests the virus emerged naturally. So let's just, go with, for a moment. Let's take the flawed epistemology of just talking about what researchers think the weight of evidence says. But we don't even have most in this sentence. We have many. Mm-hmm. Many could be just some arbitrary number, like 20.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Many doesn't. 20 guys.
Can also go into researchers, right? Because obviously it's not researchers like in machine learning. There are probably researchers in virology. And if they're researchers in virology, one might ask, is there funding at stake? Depending on what the public concludes about an accident from research, like the researchers are doing, perhaps? Is there any ulterior motive in said researchers researching themselves? I don't know. I'm just asking.
But we're at the point where many researchers is now the threshold of whatever is supposed to be the leading idea. Yeah. We're all supposed to. Fauci, who played a leading role in the United States pandemic response, was not charged with anything in connection with Morenz because he has a pardon, perhaps.
Pardon.
But earlier this month, Paul's Senate committee voted to hold him in contempt of Congress for invoking the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination and refusing to answer questions at a hearing. It will ultimately be up to the Justice Department to decide whether to pursue the criminal prosecution of Fauci. Some experts have said these moves are part of a broader undermining of science and scientists in the United States.
Gator, I will note that it doesn't even say many experts in this one.
No,
it just says some.
Some.
This could be 3.
Jennifer Jones, who runs the Center for Science and Democracy at the Union of Concerned Scientists, would not comment specifically about either Morenz or Fauci's situations, but she says the Trump administration has been attacking scientists in many ways. Criminal prosecution of scientists is a classic authoritarian tactic, she told NPR in an interview. But Robert Fisher, a Boston attorney who was not involved in the Morenz case, says the government charges against Morenz appear solid. Quote, when you're a government official, you swear an oath, you're working for a federal agency, you're just held to a higher standard, Fisher said. Morenz, who is 78 years old, could face 5 years in prison and a fine up to $250,000 when he's sentenced in November. Now, Alex, do you have any additional information on this particular person?
So she said that persecution of scientists like Morenz is a classic move in authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what she was? So basically, like catching someone deliberately evading freedom of information rules and doing something that they confess to understanding that they shouldn't do in the emails where they are caught doing so is a classic authoritarian move.
Well, I mean, I think we agree that putting people in jail is something that authoritarians do.
It does require the application of authority. It's a classic authoritarian move. So, I mean, at this point, why even have rules that apply to scientists if you can't, implement them? Because to do so would be a classic authoritarian move.
You don't want to do that.
Just give them, carte blanche.
All right, Alex. Now, so far, has some of the news been pretty dumb?
It's hitting the spot. Yeah, but I can.
Right. Well, how about University of Michigan drops first semester grades to curb mental health crisis? The University of Michigan will drop grades for first semester freshmen next year in an effort to curb the mental health crisis unfolding among college-aged individuals, according to the school. Instead of letter grades, first semester transcripts will show pass or no credit. The program is designed to help students acclimate to the demands of college and allow intrinsic motivations to guide personally meaningful academic journeys, the school said. The program, set to start in fall 2027, applies to students in the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, which enrolls about half of Michigan's roughly 8,000 first-year students. The Michigan spokesman declined to comment about how the university reached the decision to enact the pilot. Although grades won't be recorded on student transcripts or affect grade point averages, professors will still assign them internally to track eligibility for scholarships and academic awards. Schools including the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and the California Institute of Technology have implemented similar grade-covering programs in past years. The shift at Michigan, among the nation's largest and best-known public universities, comes as schools wrestle with grade inflation and the need for remedial instruction for freshmen ill-prepared for college-level classes. University of California math and science professors have urged UC regents to reinstate entrance exams because so many freshmen were unprepared. A recent University of California San Diego faculty report found that the percentage of students placed in classes to remediate elementary and middle school math before they could take pre-calculus increased to 8.5% in 2025 from 0.5% in 2020. In May, Harvard University faculty voted to approve a 20% cap on the number of A's per undergraduate course in an effort to curb grade inflation. It won't apply to A-minuses, which committee members predicted would become the most awarded grade. At the University of Michigan, a review by the news site MLive found that 74.1% of all undergraduate grades in 2022 were A+, A, or A-. A decade earlier, that percentage was 57.6%. Kenneth Lowendy, a former Michigan political science professor who left for Rice University, said he didn't think the new policy would make much of a difference because grade inflation had made grades largely irrelevant. Michigan no longer mandates the SAT or ACT for undergraduate admissions. Quote, grades have lost their value as an indication of quality or excellence, Lowendy said. Michigan students lauded the new policy. Student body president Summit Louth said he had spoken to around 50 classmates. That's many classmates, Alex, just so you know. He took a poll of the many classmates, and they were either happy or jealous the policy didn't exist when they were freshmen. Poor mental health.
That's the limiting of the A's?
The limiting of the A's?
Is that the policy, the limiting of A's to 20%, or is there some other policy that I missed?
Oh, no, we're just getting rid of the freshman semester grading altogether. That's what we're doing.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yes. Let me. Yes. So again, the
right
intro
back.
of this
I'm gonna
is
just go order my Mandarin.
Yes.
Textbook.
Yes. Instead of letter grades, the first semester transcripts will show pass or no credit. That's it.
Not even fail. Just try again.
Pass or no credit.
Got it.
Poor mental health is closely tied to academic stress and anxiety among students, Louth said. Louth, 20 years old, said he earned all A's and 1 B in his first semester and doubted he would have worked as hard had the classes been pass-fail, but he thinks he would have had learned more from his classes without the pressure of earning high marks. Derek Peterson, a history professor and former chair of faculty government, said he believes the move is generally beneficial because it will give students a chance to explore subjects more freely. Students are under more stress today than their predecessors, he said, including the distraction of social media, bleaker job prospects, and less secure economic conditions. The idea that our kids are somehow more coddled is simply not true.
It's like, dude, fuck it. You're not going to get a job anyway. Who gives a shit? Just fucking have fun while the world is ending. I like it. I like it. It makes sense.
So, I just want to point out that for the record, there wasn't a single person in that article who is quoted as objecting to this idea. And
you see? There you go.
This was the Wall Street Journal, just so you know. So this is an announcement of an extremely stupid policy that has only glowing reviews inside of it.
Look, Gator, you just don't understand what's happening here. Okay,
I know.
When you're moving from a 5-star system, because nobody really uses the 5-star system anymore, it's just 5 stars and 1 star. So they're like, well, let's just turn it into a thumbs up, thumbs down then. You see?
Now look, I can complain about the way the 5 stars are implemented in certain systems because they often let you do half a star, and so you might as well just do it on a 10-point scale in the first place and don't even bother saying it's a 5-point scale with these fractions that you're introducing. I can have my complaints.
Right.
But
have you ever given a non-5-star on Uber, if perchance you've ever used that app? Anyway, one time I tried to give a 1-star because I had a negative experience, and it immediately slipped me into a different part of the app where it was like, "Are you safe? Did anything happen to you?" Because I guess it's so rare that I must have been assaulted or something.
So, what'd you do? A 4-star? A 4-star?
No, it was a 1-star because a
1-star. Okay. All right. Well, a 1-star makes sense to double check on what happened to get more information because, 1 star, even if, that's the range of reviews, is still dramatic for the company to want to know what happened. You want feedback about that event.
I mean, the driver just refused to complete the journey as requested. I felt like this is not a journey at all because he just stopped halfway. So I thought he didn't rape me or anything.
Well, tell me a little bit more, Alex. Did you get into an argument with this person? Did you?
No, not at all. I just had a trip with a return, and he just had mentally clocked it as that he would drop me off at the first stop, and then he said, "Well, I gotta go," and he just left. So I was like, well.
Oh, okay. Now so you didn't perform.
I don't know. Am I breaking? Is this a rude?
Well, you didn't perform the linear calculus on that and just say, okay, well that means that he gets half credit. You gave him.
He doesn't, because I still have to sit there and wait like an idiot for the next Uber to come.
I see. All right. I guess that your formula made sense in that circumstance. I don't know, man. Reading this article from the Wall Street Journal about getting rid of the grades for the first semester people and how all of the people that they quoted in here are in approval of it, I'm really just starting to think that all of undergraduate college is a waste of time now. I don't think anybody cares. I don't think anybody cares.
Yeah.
It is.
So here's the thing, right? I've been having this thought with data centers as well. You'll see a general malaise, even in conservative circles, about like the U.S. falling behind China and whatever. But then, like, the moment there's like a chance to bitch about data centers, they'll be like, "Oh, these data centers, man, they're terrible. They drink all your water. Or there's some water shortages in the United States because of data, whatever." And it's like it's not even true. And just so we're clear, I kind of understand psychologically why people are turning against the data centers, but like how is this gonna, like, what is the plan here? Like, what? It's like everybody in their individual like decisions are just making choices that are like, we just don't like any of this shit. We're done, basically. Like, just stop. Just give up. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm just gonna go get a book and learn Mandarin, because this is just not gonna go very far the way we're going.
As you follow back the historical chains of logic, it was like, okay, well, the average person who goes to university earns more than their cohort who doesn't go to university. So we want to expand the opportunity, the earnings potential and educational earnings potential of these next generations by expanding the access to university so that everyone can have the benefits of university. And so we're going to expand the ability to get loans to be able to go to university. And then everybody's able to get loans that secretly they don't understand they're not going to easily be able to get rid of, even if they have to declare bankruptcy at some point, that those types of loans are something that'll stick with them for the rest of their lives, no matter what. And they start taking out all this money to go to university, which starts to increase the average enrollment in all of the universities, and then starts to slowly jack up the price of the the tuition at all of the universities. And so now you have far too many people going to university for reasons outside of just pressure that's what you do now. That is your expected life development, that you are just supposed to go to university because that's what you do when you hit a certain age. And now you have a whole bunch of people who are feeling the stress because maybe they're inadequate. And in order to ameliorate the stress, we start to give more people A's that truly deserve it.
That's right.
And then some of them can't even meet those standards, so we have to get rid of grades to make sure that they don't feel the stress.
Look, I will say there is a problem with university grading. This is the other point of view. And I'm not saying this solves it, but it does. There is a good point to be made somewhere there, which is that if it's like it's a Goodhart's law type thing, right? Where if you know that you're going into university and you are going to be graded for everything you do, then the incentive is clearly to pick the courses that you'll get better grades in. Right, which is not necessarily the best long-term strategy in terms of like sampling different types of courses and getting the best sort of exposure you can, because some of those may be things that are actually difficult and you might not get a good grade in. And if
you will be limited in some degree to if you choose an actual major that doesn't afford you a wide latitude to pick courses that you'll get. And there's courses that maybe you wouldn't even know in advance whether or not you do particularly well in. Mathematics.
There's always scuttlebutt, right, about a particular professor or whatever.
Well, I'm just saying, even if you go like for mathematics, it's like you'll have no idea. Some math classes you may excel in just because the subject matter actually is something that clicks more easily. Like differential equations is a wholly different beast than abstract algebra. Like some mathematicians will do great in one and not the other,
Right. I know, but all I'm saying is that if you are going in with the objective to maximize the knowledge attained, you will pick a different set of classes than if you go in with the objective of maximizing the grade you get out.
Yeah.
And that delta, to the degree it exists, it could be a problem. I don't know. Yeah. So if that's what this, I don't know. Like, I guess I could see an argument for it, but it's in the context of everything else that's been happening, I'm skeptical.
All right. Well, cleaning up this round, Alex, of news stories at the intro of the show. One of the previous cultural phenomenon cases of contention in court, Carmelo Anthony has an update this week. Judge denies Carmelo Anthony's bid for new trial after ex-lawyers detailed dispute that kept him from testifying. This is from Fox News. A Texas judge denied Carmelo Anthony a new trial Saturday after his attorneys argued that courtroom restrictions, hearings held without Anthony present, and the handling of an unwritten agreement between his former lawyers and prosecutors violated his rights. Retired District Judge Michael Chitty denied Anthony's request after reviewing the motion, court record, evidence and arguments, briefs, and relevant case law according to his order. The order did not detail his reasoning for the decision. The decision leaves Anthony's murder conviction and 35-year prison sentence in place. His challenge will continue on direct appeal. Collin County District Attorney Greg Willis said his office expected that decision and remains confident in the case. Quote, "We respect and expected the court's decision denying the motion for new trial. The jury's guilty verdict stands and we remain confident in the process," his statement said. Quote, "Every defendant has the right to appeal and our thoughts and prayers remain with the Metcalf family in the painful wake of last week's hearing." Chitty heard 2 days of testimony in McKinney, Texas after Judge Sid Harrell removed the judge who presided over Anthony's murder trial, Judge John Roach, from the remaining trial court proceedings earlier this week. Harrell found that a reasonable outside observer could question whether Roach appeared impartial after he publicly said the jury, quote, "got it right," and defended several of his trial decisions. At the center of the new trial hearing was an oral agreement between Anthony's original defense attorneys and prosecutors to keep potentially damaging character evidence involving both sides from reaching the jury. Former lead defense attorney Mike Howard testified that he understood the agreement to allow Anthony to testify if he stayed focused on the confrontation under the tent at Frisco track meet. On the final day of the trial, prosecutors told the defense the agreement would not apply if Anthony took the stand and that the defense had opened the door to character evidence. Howard said the dispute led to a heated break in proceedings and made Anthony unwilling to testify. Under cross-examination, Howard acknowledged the lawyers never expressly agreed on whether a testifying defendant was covered by the arrangement. He said that he could not say whether prosecutors acted in bad faith. Former defense attorney Toby Shook gave similar testimony Friday, saying the original defense team understood the agreement to include Anthony's testimony about the confrontation. The position prosecutors took caught Shook off guard because the defense had always expected Anthony to take the stand in support of his self-defense claim. The defense also introduced a training presentation that led prosecutor Bill Werski had used in continuing legal education courses on self-defense. One slide advised defense lawyers that the client probably needs to testify. During a break, the defense updated Anthony and explained that Roach said he could not enforce the unwritten agreement, Shook testified. That left Anthony unsure whether testifying would allow prosecutors to introduce character evidence that the agreement was meant to keep out. Werski disputed that the agreement was broken. He said the lawyers never discussed the details of what it would allow if Anthony testified, and that prosecutors remained willing to honor it. The state feared testimony from Anthony or his mother can inadvertently open the door to character evidence, Werski said. Chitty also considered claims that courtroom access restrictions violated Anthony's Sixth Amendment right to a public trial, and that the jury instructions limited jury's ability to consider self-defense. So he still has a full appeal out there, but granting a new trial was denied this week. So that was a previous hotly contested case. Yes.
There exists character evidence in this trial, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And said evidence is such that Carmelo Anthony would rather not testify than have it be revealed in court.
That's what this story reads like, but I've also heard that there was character evidence that indicated that there were, unpleasant racist tendencies in the victim that
that's why narrative. The other side would agree to such a deal. That explains the other half of the conversation. But whatever it was also for the person who got convicted. It was enough for him. Whatever they had on him was enough for him to say, like, if they're going to put that in there, I'm just not going to testify instead.
Yeah, yeah. And opening the door is basically this, just in case that term's not familiar to people. It's basically like you have a situation where a lot of things are off limits in a trial. Usually you have to stick to the specifics of the case at hand, and you don't venture off into other avenues. So, for example, previous crimes that were committed by an accused individual are typically not permitted inside of the trial. But there are situations where during the course of events, if the defense, let's say, brings a witness onto the stand and the defense asks them a question that then brings up a previous crime about the accused into there, then that opens the door to the prosecution asking questions about it. So like there's ways that you can sort of accidentally step on your own toes and take something that's normally off limits inside of the trial and bring it wide open. That can happen with even something that's supposed to be very, very tight and sacred, which is the attorney-client privilege. So, for example, if you start having conversations with your attorneys and then you start telling people about those conversations and you say, my attorneys told me this, if that comes forward in either a civil or a criminal case, that can open the door for those communications to actually be explored because you are the one who, violated your own privilege, right? You basically waived it by talking about it.
Right. So yeah, but basically it's just fascinating that, yes, there seems to be some underlying facts about the case that were bad enough for both sides. Both sides agreed that it would be better for them, which is kind of weird, right? Because it can only be better for for one side, really. But both sides agreed it would be better if it wasn't, if they weren't made public, which makes me wonder what the hell could it be. But whatever. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Now, Alex, that was one of the previous hotly contested court cases. Now I know that there's some on your mind of hotly contested court cases in the upcoming future, but in this week, have you seen anything in regards to the Lindsay Clancy case?
No, I've just seen the name floating around, but I didn't dig
All
in.
right. All right.
Hit me.
So, okay. All right. So on January 24th, 2023, 32-year-old Lindsay Clancy was at home with her 3 children. 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and an 8-month-old Callan. Her husband, Patrick Clancy, left the house for roughly 20 minutes to pick up food and medication. When he returned, he found Lindsay outside after she had jumped from a second-story window. She survived the fall, but suffered spinal injuries that left her paralyzed. Patrick went into the basement where he discovered the 3 children. Cora and Dawson were pronounced dead that night. Callan was taken to a hospital but died several days later. Authorities determined that all 3 children had been strangled. Lindsay Clancy was subsequently charged with 3 counts each of murder and strangulation. She has pleaded not guilty. There is essentially no dispute at trial over whether Clancy physically killed the children. Instead, the central issue is her mental state at the time, whether she was criminally responsible for what she did. In the months before the killings, Clancy had experienced significant psychiatric problems following the birth of Callan. She reported anxiety, depression, insomnia, intrusive thoughts, and concerns about her ability to take care of the children. She sought treatment for numerous medical and mental health professionals, was prescribed several psychiatric medications, and spent several days at McLean Hospital in early January 2023. She was discharged less than 3 weeks before the children died. The defense argues that Clancy was suffering from postpartum psychosis and bipolar disorder and was therefore unable to appreciate the wrongfulness of her actions or control of her behavior. Her attorneys say she experienced delusions and auditory hallucinations, including a voice commanding her to kill the children and herself. Defense experts have testified that she was psychotic at the time and was not criminally responsible under Massachusetts law. Prosecutors dispute that diagnosis. They argue that Clancy was severely depressed but not psychotic, and that the circumstances surrounding the killings demonstrate planning and awareness of what she was doing. Among other things, they have pointed to her arranging for Patrick to leave the house, her behavior immediately before the killings, her internet searches, and other evidence that they say shows purposeful action rather than uncontrollable psychotic episodes. prosecution experts have testified that she understood right from wrong and remained capable of controlling her actions. So there's your summary, Alex, of what the case is and its contention. And part of the hubbubaloo involves characters like Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire, basically saying that like postpartum depression is just a whole bunch of women who are selfish and narcissistic and stuff like that. And, basically poo-pooing the entire idea that anyone could be temporarily psychotic. Now, for the record, Alex, I am someone who believes that people can undergo significant mental distresses that afford them a thought pattern that would be unlike them had they been well rested and of regular sound mind. That there are many ways.
If you weren't, the fact that Matt Walsh said what he said would make you take that side anyway.
Yes, that is true. He is an anti-indicator for me on most things. I mean, listen, Matt Walsh does not like dogs, and anyone who doesn't like dogs is just an untrustworthy person in general. That's, you can't really.
So that means he doesn't like what he looks like in the mirror, or.
Now, Alex. All the other cases that they kind of have contentious disagreements, let's just take Tyler Robinson, for example. There are people like Candace Owens who have, let's say, alternative facts or alternative theories about what might happen, or things that they point out that to them raises suspicion about whatever particular prime narrative there is. Maybe it's just the prosecution's narrative, or let's say it's the societal narrative that might be in line with the prosecution's. They take issue with that, and they say that they have experts or informants on their side that help aid in those thoughts, right? And you're well familiar with that. Sometimes you are a participant in some of the non-standard narratives, correct? You have some not necessarily outlandish, but let's say more niche ideas of a particular claim that you might agree raise doubt in the official narrative from the prosecutors or the government or society at large, right? That's fairly normal in today's day and age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this case has brought to light something that I think we've all missed. We've all slept on, Alex, something that I didn't, I felt ill-equipped to even continue doing the show for the rest of my life, because it was an entire intellectual discipline I did not know existed. Alex. What
is that? I'm waiting for the reveal here.
Forensic astrology. Forensic astrology.
Continue.
Forensic astrology, Alex, is something that I've learned exists and has taken a large degree of internet bandwidth this last week to go and discuss.
Please don't tell me that her horoscope predicted that she would kill her kids. Is that where we are now?
It's been a while, but I have to pop on here just to say that I've been following this Lindsay Clancy trial, especially as a mother of two who dealt with a lot of postpartum mental illness, and just following all their birth charts and birthdays and zodiac signs. He did it. He's a Gemini man. His birthday is June 15th. I'm a Gemini woman. My birthday is June 14th. Let me give you another example of who a Gemini man is. Also birthday June 14th. Men and women are different. Keep that in mind. Please don't judge me. Donald Trump. Patrick did it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I wanted to show you. I get a lot of questions about how did I find out in the chart. And so I'm zoomed in here. And here we have the 7th section. And this is the house of the suspect. Okay. And it's sitting in Aquarius. The ruler of Aquarius is Saturn, and Saturn is a very masculine father energy. So it's not a feminine energy. So therefore, the suspect is a male. Now, we have Saturn and Venus in here, but this isn't mother energy. This is helper energy. And here we have it notched to Venus. So there's two females in this story that is hidden. And we'll probably find out who this female is in his trial. But when we look at the inner dial, we have Venus, Neptune, and Moon, and that means a male was getting help from a female to poison mother. 8th section is the crime scene itself. The moon represents mother and the victims, as well as Neptune. This is drugging and staging. And Jupiter expands everything it touches. You can't see it right here, but this is actually Mars. So how this translates, especially with Pisces, its ruler is Neptune, is sitting in the 8th section. This is heavy drugging of the mother and staging. And the violence put on her was so excessive, and the children. So this is representative of the victims and specifically the mother. Pluto is like burial, this was meant to kill her. In a combination here, we have ourselves another suspect. I'm curious about who this is, and I'm gonna probably bet that this person is in the medical field. Alrighty.
So, Alex, you might not have the video up of this, but the woman was demonstrating some sort of astrology chart. I don't know how to read astrology charts, Alex. I have no knowledge in this sector. I am woefully unprepared to be able to combat.
Well, Gator, I think we should follow what PBS says and look what the consensus of the field is. I mean, well, how else are we going to find the truth here?
Well, a large number of the forensic.
Then we'll just shoot him. Like, what else is there?
A large number of the forensic astrologists have said that her husband is actually the perpetrator. So
there you go. I'm sorry, sir.
However,
you might believe you have rights. However.
It is not a unanimous. It is not a unanimous claim among forensic astrologers.
Astrologer with over 10 years of professional experience, I think I get to weigh in on Patrick Clancy's astrology. Because if I hear one more lady say, he's a Gemini, I'm going to lose my mind. Let's go. Let's talk about this chart. We know that Patrick Clancy was born June 15th, 1988, not June 14th. He does not have the same birthday as Donald Trump. Who the hell put that on the internet? Incorrect. Look it up. June 15th, it's in court documents. It's June 15th. Okay? June 15th. He's born under the sign of Gemini. Yes, that does not make him a murderer. Okay? Here's the thing. You know what else was in the sign of Gemini? Venus and Mercury. Do you know what that means? Let me explain it to you. When Venus and Mercury are in the sign of Gemini, what that means is it's a considerate type of energy. Venus is the planet of careful consideration, love, beauty. Okay? We have that meeting in the sign of Mercury, which is also in the house or in a placement it likes to be in. It likes to be in Gemini. So what this is this is skill communication, considerate communication. This is not an aggressive energy. It's not even a confrontational energy. It's more like everyone gets the benefit of the doubt and we're going to look at everything from all angles type of energy. Okay, so when we have the sun placed there with that other combination, what that means is it's putting a special light and illuminating those energies, which means that Patrick Clancy was obviously a very skilled and thoughtful communicator, and not in a negative way, in a careful, considerate type of energy. So let's just put that on the table and move on to the next thing that we know about this chart. We know about the moon being in the sign of Cancer. Okay, and what do we know about the moon? The moon rules over our habits, our instincts, our emotions, and our feelings, really. And we have it sitting in the sign of Cancer, which is also the sign it likes to be in, which means it's operating well there, okay? And when we have a Cancer moon, that means it's fiercely protective. That means that it's supportive. That means that it's understanding and nurturing and looking to help you. And so when we mix that with the energies like I was just talking about that are also existing in his energy, he's a skilled, thoughtful communicator who's considering all angles, and he's trying to look for a way to be supportive.
So, Alex, I have to apologize for being woefully equipped to, very inequipped to adjudicate any of the argumentation that I'm hearing here. I have absolutely no knowledge that helps separate wheat from chaff here.
Yes. I mean, I heard all this and I still... Well, first of all, we can figure out when his man's birthday is. But even if it is the same as Trump's, if there's any... Look, I'm not a fan of the man, all right? But if there's any like problems with the guy, is that he loves his family too much, a little bit over the point where he should be, like not, you know. But then on the other hand, he said, you know, oh, the man is protective. Maybe getting rid of the kids was a way to protect his wife. I don't know. I mean, who can tell at this point?
Now, Alex, Candace Owens accepted $300,000 to debate, quote unquote, Andrew Wilson on the Patrick David Bet podcast. Do I have this information correct?
It wasn't. No, it was not it was a special Candace podcast with PBD.
Patrick Bet David.
Close enough. Keep going.
But Patrick Bet David sat in the middle and had the title.
Yeah,
of
he was
moderator.
their moderator. That's right.
Right. Why have we not seen any such debates among the forensic forensic astrologists on the Tyler Robinson situation here?
Do you have a little bit of money burning a hole in your pocket, Gator? We can make this happen.
I do not have
$300,000. Empire even by moderating.
So yes, I've now learned that there are people who
into the mainstream. Gator, you're not seeing the opportunity here.
I understand. I have now come to learn though that there is a subsect of the world that calls themselves forensic astrologists, and there is an activity.
Nobody has ever called them to testify at a trial, man.
Right? Imagine how many
being suppressed, obviously,
guilty or innocent people have had their trials without the input of these expert witnesses. Like, do police even bother trying to consult with these valuable resources?
I mean, look. Considering the kinds of people that police have consulted with, I don't know if this is proving very much or very little.
Well, I would say that
one day we can get into how, for example, fire investigations and stuff like that is a complete kookery. But
well, I would say that, you know, whenever we think we have it bad, you know, where let's say that someone like Candace Owens has a disconnect from accepting actual factual information, and that they have a tendency to create their own rabbit holes to go down and bring people along with them, that at least that there is some sort of logical, factual way of personally trying to understand and adjudicate yourself whether or not what they're saying has validity. I would say that this is a situation where I cannot find a way out to figure out other than just discarding every word in every sentence that is being uttered. It's nonsense.
Look, Gator, I will counter to this.
Yes.
That astrology is more or less a formal system. I.e., you know, there is a deterministic input, and there are some ways to determine automatically what the various overlaps are. Now, what they mean... There's a minor issue with bridging the formal with reality, but then again, all formal fields have this issue. Okay, it's a sim to real gap, let's call it. So, really, I mean, who are we to speak?
I'm just saying sometimes we need to count our blessings, and this is one of those situations where I've been introduced to something that makes me, pause and count my blessings.
It's amazing. Look, you know. There's always a need for an epistemic control group, right? People use the flat earthers as the, you know, even if everything else is wrong, at least we know these guys aren't right, or, you know, something like that, where you can actually find a community that everybody, like almost everybody agrees are just not right. And therefore you can look at how they behave as a, you know, you could be this formal and still be completely wrong type of thing. So, I don't know, maybe we could, maybe these people could,
yes.
Have some, yeah.
All right. Alex, are you ready for some Meet the Flockers?
Of course.
All right. Affidavit. A police officer used flock cameras to track estranged wife 717 times. From WSB TV, a Central Florida police officer is accused of using flock camera technology to track his estranged wife's vehicle 717 times over a 21-month period, according to an affidavit. According to Polk County online court records, Christopher Anthony Godson, 31, an officer with the Haines City Police Department, was arrested on August 11th. He was charged with 1 count of offenses against users of computers, computer systems, computer networks, and electronic devices, and 1 count of official misconduct, according to an arrest affidavit. Goodson, who has been an officer with the Haines City Police Department since March 2022, was placed on paid administrative leave, WTVT reported. According to court records, Goodson informed his supervisor on August 10th that he had made several inquiries on the flock camera platform, an automated program that reads license plates into his estranged wife's vehicle. Goodson allegedly told his supervisor that he had received a text message from his wife stating that she had been contacted by the Washington Post, which was preparing to run a story about Goodson's alleged misuse of the database. According to the affidavit, Goodson said he searched his wife's vehicle to keep track of his children's location when they were with her. A query revealed that Goodson had searched for his wife's vehicle in the flock database 717 times between September 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2026, the affidavit stated. Now, when I originally came across this story, Alex, I had some questions about using the numerical figure 717, because when I do searches, when I do...
Is there an astrological implication to this?
When I do open source intelligence on stuff, I might perform a large number of searches in a very short period of time. So the number 717
right,
doesn't necessarily quantify anything, but I think 717 is fair given the span of time that he was doing these searches. So September 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2026. I think 717 is a fine quantification to communicate how frequently and often he was doing
Twice a day, basically, 3 times a day, something like this.
Yeah, but police said that Goodson had accessed the system while he was working and when he was off duty. WFLA reported the affidavit stated that Goodson used a laptop computer and cell phone issued by the police department to access the information. After a handful of inquiries, Goodson allegedly tracked the vehicle driven by his wife 86 times in August 2025, 280 times in September 2025, 72 times in October 2025, 104 times in November, and 68 times in December 2025. According to the affidavit, Goodson gave several reasons for his searches, including road rage and reckless driving, drug possession, traffic infractions, theft, fleeing police, and assault battery offenses. Investigators determined that Goodson's wife was never involved in any type of criminal investigation, nor was her vehicle listed as being part of a crime, WFLA reported. The flock incident in Florida mirrors several other recent incidences around the country. In Massachusetts, a Stowe Police Department officer is accused of using police databases, including the flock camera platform, to obtain information about a woman he previously dated, WFXT reported. On Monday, an officer with the Menasha Police Department in Wisconsin pleaded no contest to misusing the flock platform and was sentenced to 6 months in jail and 3 years of probation, according to WBAY. Flock, a company that is based in Atlanta, has installed more than 120,000 of its cameras nationwide since 2017, the Post reported. Last week, the company said it would begin requiring officers to label every search with a criminal case number, according to the newspaper. It would also automatically review all searches for abnormal activity, company officials said. On August 2nd, the Post reported that at least 50 officers had been accused, charged with, or convicted of misusing Flock's system and other license plate readers to spy on people's locations. Since that report, the newspaper confirmed more than a dozen additional cases of license plate reader misuse. In a statement, Haines City Police Chief Isaac Jackson called the charges against Goodson an unfortunate incident. Quote, "The Haines City Police Department fully supports all appropriate investigative measures necessary to solve crimes and assist our officers in carrying out their duties," Jackson said. Quote, "We want to make it clear that the Haines City Police Department does not tolerate the misuse, unauthorized access, or personal use of any investigative database or law enforcement information systems. Quote, "These resources are provided for legitimate official purposes only and must be used responsibly and in accordance with the department policies and applicable laws." Haines City Police said the department will continue using flock cameras, WTVT reported. Officials said it's an effective investigative tool when used properly. So, Alex, we have some more on the Meet the Flockers, including the All In podcast that you sent me. I have some excerpts from that we're going to discuss. But so far, I have issues partially related to the ability for Flock to have given this gentleman so much information. But a question that raises to my head is, what would he have been doing that was inappropriate had he not had Flock to sort of abuse and in some way expose his abusive policy? Like, if he had to stalk his wife or ex-wife or whatever she was through other means, what other means would he have taken? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Because...
I mean, look, on the one hand, stalk definitely enabled him. On the other hand, maybe it encouraged him, but if not, maybe it also helped him get caught. So it flocked him while flocking or something. I don't know. There's a few ways to read this one.
Well, we have another story in a similar vein, Alex. Quote, I saw a shiny thing. Cop explains why he used license plate reader to stalk woman. From 404 Media, body camera footage obtained by 404 Media shows a police officer explaining why he used police databases and license plate reader cameras to research, stalk, and pull over a woman he met on the set of a TV show. Quote, I mean, I saw a shiny thing, teasing and all that, the cop said on the footage. Quote, I knew that when I put that into the system, I was like, fuck. 404 Media obtained more than an hour of body camera footage that shows an investigation into Florida cop Lamar Roman, who met a woman on the set of the Apple TV show Bad Monkey, then illegally researched her using government Department of Motor Vehicle databases, put her license plate on a police hot list that would notify him when she drove past an automated license plate reader camera, nearly caused a head-on collision while speeding to track her down, and illegally pulled her over after stalking her. We previously published footage from Roman's police cruiser. The new footage shows police station interviews with Roman about why he did what he did, an anonymized police station interview with the victim about his actions, and the eventual arrest of Roman in front of his home. The detective investigating Roman told the man, quote, you'll get past this, bro, during his arrest, and later told the victim that he was remorseful and urged her not to post about the incident on social media, according to body camera footage obtained by 404 Media. The footage also shows that the investigator told the victim that, quote, we've had deputies misuse databases. We've told them over and over again that's not what it's for. You see a hot chick, you don't look them up in the database, that's not what it's for. Now, that's a more you know segment, Alex, if I've ever seen one. That's something that we should probably have PSAs for right after some NBC primetime coverage of...
You see a hot chick, don't check her over in the database.
Don't use the government surveillance databases to surveil her.
Oh, my God.
The footage gives...
Guys, it's called mass surveillance. Put your focus on the M.
The footage gives unprecedented insight into how and why abusive police use government spy tools, including license plate reader cameras, to surveil and stalk victims, how victims are informed of this surveillance, and how cops are treated when they are ultimately arrested for the crime. The footage is particularly notable as dozens of cops around the country have been caught abusing Flock and other ALPR systems to stalk ex-wives, ex-partners, and random people. When 404 Media wrote about this issue, in early July, Flock claimed it was aware of 15 incidents of abuse, though we, local media, and a report by the Institute of Justice for Justice had found far more than that. The Washington Post then found at least 50 incidents, and now Flock CEO Garrett Langley is saying that his system has caught a lot of bad cops. It's a ton, more than I ever would have hoped. Roman used an ALPR system called Guardian, made by a company called Turing. The most striking footage comes from an interview with the victim by Detective Jenna Moeller, who investigated, questioned, and arrested Roman. Moeller is the one who informed the victim of the extent of the stalking. 404 Media is not naming the victim and changed her voice in the videos we've uploaded to protect her identity. Moeller begins by telling the victim, quote, I'm going to tell you some information and may be upsetting. Moeller tells the victim how exactly Roman found her and said that this is not the first time she has investigated a case involving police misuse of a database. Quote, he met you on the Bad Monkey set. He was flirting with you. He did use our database to look you up. He looked you up multiple times to see who you were, where you lived. accessed your information, unfortunately. We have a system called DAVID, Department of Motor Vehicles, Mueller says. It's so your driver's license information. He looked at your signature, the vehicles you have, and your photo. And I can tell you he looked at vehicles and photos of each one to see if it was you. He then used a different system we have to run your name, your license plate number, your address, your date of birth. He accessed that the day of filming. Quote, the most concerning part to me, listen, we've had deputies misuse databases. We told them over and over again, quote, that's not what it's for. You see a hot chick, you don't look them up in the database. That's not what it's for, she says. The more concerning part to me is we have what's called license plate readers, LPR systems, which is the cameras positioned up and down the highway, and we use that for law enforcement. We have one highway, so if we're looking for somebody, it makes it very easy to locate their vehicle. He put your tag in so that when he would be alerted to when your vehicle was going one way or another. Stop it, the victim says incredulously. Quote, so that obviously is very concerning to me. In my interview, he stated that's how he knew your vehicle was moving that day, and he knew you were going to be heading south. Mueller says, he was looking for your vehicle to pull you over. Our in-car cameras do click on when you go over 70 miles an hour. To catch up to your vehicle, he passed multiple cars to get behind you and initiate that stop. It's probably a lot to take in, but I will say he's very remorseful. He acknowledged it was dumb, acknowledged it was not the right thing to do, she adds. During the interviews, the victim described her experience with Roman. She repeatedly told Mueller she felt uncomfortable throughout every interaction she had with him, and that his advances were unwanted on set. A longer description of what happened and what Roman did is available in our earlier story. All of a sudden, I'm driving, there's steady traffic, and he cuts off a truck behind me, and immediately I'm like, this is him, I know it's him. I could see him in my rearview mirror, and I'm like, he better not pull me over, and he pulled me over, the victim tells Mueller in the footage. He came up to my passenger window, and I had my window rolled down, and I'm like, I knew it was you. Does all my information pop up on your screen? And he was like, I told you I would find you and pull you over, he says. And I was hoping your boyfriend was with you so that I could pull him out and give him a hard time. And he was like, why aren't you following me on Instagram? And I was like, I'm late, she said. He kept looking around my car, and I was like, can I please go? And then he finally let me go. I had this moment where I had my phone in my hand, and I could have started recording, or I could have popped off, but then it's like my word against a police officer, and I just felt like I wasn't in power in that situation. Mueller and the victim then discussed what it would mean to press charges and the fact that Roman's body camera was not on when he pulled her over, and what it might be like to testify at trial. Mueller tells her that he had been fired and that he lost access to police databases. The victim wonders if that might make him upset or if she'd be blamed. At the end of the interview, Mueller asked the victim not to post about the incident on social media until the investigation is over. Quote, it's unsettling to all of us. I'm glad that our agency found out about it relatively quickly and took action. Those are, in my opinion, all positives. This is not something that's getting swept under the rug, Mueller says. Other than that, I know you have a big social media following. I can't tell you what to post or not to post, but if you could refrain from posting anything until my investigation is over, I would appreciate it. Just so it doesn't hinder anything else. I don't think it would, but it just makes my life a little easier. The two agreed that it would be a good story time on social media, but the victim says she won't post anything. In Mueller's police station interview with Roman, he admits to hitting on and flirting with the victim on the Bad Monkey set. She was kind of teasing, he said. The victim told Mueller that she was deeply uncomfortable the whole time and that he was harassing her. Roman says after he met her, he looked her up on David and MNI, another police database, which he knew was illegal. Right when I did that, I was like, fuck, what did I do? He said. Quote, when you pulled her over, did you know it was her? Mueller asks him. Yes, he says. Did you have a legal reason to pull her over? Mueller asks. No, he says. When asked what his goal with the hot list was, Roman says, I think just meeting someone like that, getting the high from it. She was leading on. She was one of those things. It was one of those things where she was kind of pushing it. Later in the interview, another cop walks into the room and sits out of camera shot and tells Roman to not let it get to you, and said, of all the people I expected to be sitting down with here, it wasn't you. I thought you were pretty good out there, so I wasn't expecting this. It caught me off guard by a long shot. Nobody's perfect. Everyone has their own issues, no matter who they are. Before the interview ends, Roman says to Mueller and the other officer, quote, I just apologized for you guys having to do this. I mean, I saw a shiny thing teasing and all that. I knew that when I put that into the system, I was like, fuck, and I stopped right after and nothing else. quote, "Oh, I get it, man. Life's full of decisions. Some are good and some are bad. What I can tell you from 10 years of doing this job and doing a bunch of things in my life is that regardless of what it is, you can always move past things," Mueller says. "In life, time is relative, and this will be a speed bump in a few years." So anyway, Alex, that's
a speed bump that you hit at 100 miles an hour and it drives your car into the asphalt and then into the air, or something like that.
Absolutely insane. Like there's that's some wild shit, man. Like,
I mean, does it really surprise you though? I mean, it's like on some level, it's like the most mundane. Yes, of course. What else did you expect? Kind of story, no?
Yes.
Like,
it's not that it like
access databases. Like, I don't know.
Listen, my reaction has nothing to do with the lack of my belief that something like that happens. It's not that I have a lack of belief or that I am believing in the better angels of people and stuff like that. It's like, no. I think a lot of people are up to no good a lot of the time, not all the time, and not necessarily in largely egregious ways. But there is a casual curiosity that you can almost sort of excuse, where if he met this woman on a set and let's say that he was awkward and uncomfortable, he goes back home and he Google searches her and he does some private things that are a little gross, right? That is something within the bounds of human nature that I could kind of be like, all right, a little weird, but okay, I get it, fine. But to go to the point of then, tracking her car to then pull her over for no reason, tell her that you wished that her boyfriend was there. Like, the more you continue down this track, the worse and worse it's getting. Like, it's not getting any saner. It's becoming an obsession at that point, right? When it goes from like a fleeting idea to an obsession, it gets really fucking creepy. And the idea that people have access to these resources and this power with almost no ability to stop them and intervene before it gets out of hand is unpleasant to think about.
Yeah, no, it's again, I think the difference here is that we're learning about it, and I would be willing to bet that, again, this person did not do one move. He did multiple moves back to back, almost as if it was a workflow that he had previously repeated. You know what I mean? Like, this wasn't like I wonder what her photo looks like or whatever. Like, this was like a almost practiced sequence here, right? You look her up in the one database, you port her over to the other, you put her over there, you go to the LPR, you put a trigger like this. This is a complicated behavior, and as you know, my general rule is that if you see somebody exhibiting some complex behavior, they've done this before. This isn't their first rodeo. So, right. And then potentially with others, by the way, like potentially this is something that somebody else maybe showed them something, and then there's some level of societal acceptance. Now, the fact that it was caught is good and encouraging because it means it wasn't completely sanctioned. But I do wonder. So in that interview I gave you, it said that as part of the pushback that FLoC is receiving, they're adding these sort of triggers or whatever, like queries where if somebody is like scanning for one person all the time and there's no particular obvious reason why they are, then that might raise an alert and whatever. So I'm wondering if this is a one-off where a bunch of cops are caught with their hand in the cookie jar because FLoC was forced to add some controls. And therefore the police department basically could not hide it internally because this is essentially their vendor turning on them. I wonder if that's what we're looking at here. Besides that,
Well, I'm also a little bit concerned that it seems that the victim of his behavior also already sort of knew that they were being stalked. Right? Like, it's one thing if the stalking, like, it's bad. It's all bad. But it's one thing if the stalking is covert enough that the victim is not aware of it, because then at least...
Or at least can't be sure,
Then at least the experience of the victim is not a one of constant fear, right? It'll be a surprise after they learn that they were a victim, but at least then the experience wasn't the entire time, oh God, I'm being followed, I'm being tracked. This woman, she sees a car coming up and she goes, oh, it's this guy again. Like, that's not a good experience, because then that means like days earlier she was worried about this guy, she was thinking about this guy, and that she's living in an area doing a show for a temporary period of time, and now while she's at work she's having to worry about whether she's going to run into him. Like, that's not a good state of mind to be in for anyone.
Yep.
Particularly since it's a person of authority like that.
Yeah, no. I mean, again, it sucks. Like, I guess I'm like unperturbed because, well, I am perturbed, but like, I'm not as sort of upset as I probably should be, because I just assume that this is how it is. Like, unfortunately, like it's sad. I wish I could be more upset about it, but I understand what office life is like, and what people do with databases that they have access to, and being a cop doesn't make any difference. If anything, it makes it worse. Yeah. And by the way, like, for him to have any serious further repercussions, this woman now has to commit to making this part of her life for who knows how many years, right? Like, what's her incentive structure here to chase this down, right? And what does she care? Ultimately, like, she would be doing a service to the community to take this guy and have him face some consequences, but her incentives are to just let it go. So
right. Move on with their life and not deal with it. Yeah. Well, CNN did some coverage this week, just about 2 days ago.
I don't know if you listened to the interview I sent you, but they did say that they caught a bunch of cops.
I did. I did. And I have clips of it. We're getting to that.
Cool.
CNN did coverage this week and partially focused on organized groups of vandals.
Is out front on the growing outrage over what some see as the makings of a surveillance state.
So we're in downtown Minneapolis, where hundreds of people have come out to protest against Flock.
Flock cameras, bro. I hate those things.
They're protesting what they say is surveillance that they didn't sign up for. One of the biggest faces of this protest calls himself No Mark. He says he's a masked vigilante who's saving the country from Flock.
Flock license plate cameras use AI to track vehicles. Police contract with the company using its national database to find stolen cars and missing people. But dozens of officers are now accused of misusing the data, like a cop investigators say searched for his ex 717 times. In videos that have gotten millions of views, destroys the cameras, making him a hero to a growing following angry over surveillance.
Let's go. I took down a Flock camera in honor of you. Did you actually? Look at that.
Oh wow, someone got this one.
Someone beat me to it. It seemed like, every week I would see a new article about how these cameras are being misused, how they're being used to stalk people.
When you hear law enforcement talk about all the uses, for these cameras, what's your reaction?
Flock cameras haven't been here forever. Crimes, they can solve crimes without them. But I think for every crime that these cameras solve, there's 10 issues with them.
What to you makes these cameras different? Because there's surveillance cameras everywhere.
They can look up exactly where you've been. It stores your information. Like, if they put in your license plate, they can have it. This person is right here, right now.
Do you feel like it's too much information?
I think it's way too much information. I think it's way too powerful, especially, you don't even need a warrant to search it. You can look up anyone, even if they're, suspected of a crime or not.
Flock is one of a handful of companies that make ALPRs, which is an automated license plate reader. And they work by capturing when your vehicle goes past them, the license plate, but also any markings on the vehicle that are distinguishing. Flock says they have over 120,000 cameras across 49 states. Anger against Flock has now reached a fever pitch. We found its cameras have been vandalized in more than 33 states. Earlier this month in Winona, Minnesota, police announced that every single Flock camera in town had been stolen.
This is one of the 8 cameras that Winona police say were cut down by vandals.
The Flock camera!
Did you get that? This guy just drove by and shouted, the Flock cameras. That seems like basically the sentiment that led to these getting chopped down.
So that was CNN covering the story. They go on to interview some of the local town community and the actual people on the city board who approved the flock cameras and things like that. But in general, there's a lot of organized activity going on to take down flock cameras in certain locations. And Alex, and I think that's a phenomenon that is related to something that we discussed during the Minnesota ICE confrontations, where I was explaining that a lot of these, there was the Minnesota ICE Watch group that had like Instagram and Facebook communities and things like that, where I was explaining that these are not uni-purpose organizations, that they are meant to be taken to whatever direction the authors want it to go, where the anti-ICE people were then being propagandized to be anti-data center and anti-flock. And while I might have a lot of sympathies on the, let's say, the anti-flock side, because I am much more of a libertarian and cap privacy person, the overlap on an occasional piece of propaganda doesn't mean that the stream is pristine and pure. That those groups are actually being curated so that they have somewhat of an endless stream of targets that they can select at a whim to get those who are following them outraged and mobile to go and protest or attack the new cause.
Yeah,
and so
no, it's look, I don't. It's very strange, right? Because it seems to be like a very narrow, very sudden focus on a few very specific things, which again, as you say, we might agree or disagree with, but the specificity of it and the energy around it is just surprising me, right? It could mean that I'm just not in the loop and I haven't worked out the build up to this or whatever, or it could mean that there's some other elements here that I'm missing. Like, for example, she said, like, they use AI to blah, 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 right? Like, now, you and I understand that this is probably some vanilla image processing, and that it would be, let's call it idiotic to use and to send this to, like, GPT 5.6 Sol to find the license plates in a frame, right? But most people who listen to that think that this is going to Anthropic or to, OpenAI. That's, if they say they use AI to find blah, that's what it means in their heads, right? And I wonder why she would lead with that. Like, why is the use of AI relevant here? Because to me, like, that AI that they're probably using is the most, old and sort of, well-worn type of AI that it's like not really AI in a certain way, like not in the way we use it currently.
Well, AI,
why is that keyword the first thing that she says about it?
AI is becoming a catch-all term for things, lately. Like the original identification of a license plate would involve a photograph and attempting to extract the license plate information from a photograph. So basically doing like an optical character reading from a photograph. And so the difficulty in that would be that the photograph is coming from various angles. Of course, if the camera is pointed at a road, it's going to be a very consistent angle, but from the software standpoint, you don't necessarily know what angle you're going to get the image from.
Yeah, different cameras are at different angles, even if the photos from a particular camera are consistent.
And so, historically speaking, AI is what is doing the optical character reading. It is trying to look in that photograph for something that matches characters on a license plate in order to extract the license plate data from that image. That is AI. That is wholly different from AI that we are imagining in the generative sense, where we are generating text or generating images, or the kind where we are having it generate text to execute agents that are then executing code and hacking these other systems and stuff like that. Like the term AI does not have any useful meaning in that case, right? There could be AI that we don't like it being used for, meaning that it's grabbing faces and then recording the person doing some sort of lookup on some sort of database, and then it's really not even the fact that it's doing face recognition. It's the fact that there's a database of people's faces. That's the problem primarily. To something to cross-reference with.
All I'm saying is that the word AI right now has connotations about a certain class of people, a certain class of companies, a certain class of capabilities. So in that sense, I'm very fine-tuned to spot a use of a keyword that is technically correct, but the listener will not make that correct connection. It will make an incorrect connection, and the use of the keyword is sort of meant to trigger that incorrect connection, even though it's defensible. You see what I mean? And I think this is what was happening here. And I'm just wondering, because I'm trying to figure out what else is going on besides the obvious. So, for example, right, we had have you heard of the latest Moderna thing that was popping up everywhere?
That they had some sort of platform that was fighting cancer successfully.
Yeah, they cured cancer. They cured a specific kind of cancer. Well, I mean, they had a trial that did well in helping with a particular kind of cancer. Somehow that became an AI story. I don't know if you've noticed, the AI Twitter is all like, if you hate data centers, you hate life, and you want to die of cancer. And it's like,
so how? What was the?
Whoa. Bro,
now the vagaries that I gleaned through osmosis as the story was floating around is that that this platform would be able to take an individual's profile of the cancer that they had and then be able to specifically produce the product that would then be used to combat it. That it wasn't like chemotherapy, that it was one size fits all, and you just hope that that the DNA sequence of the cancer tumor that you had would be used as the input, and that you would get an output of something that was meant to specifically target that signature.
Right. Well, but only for specific signatures, right? It's not that it's like a general purpose thing. It's like there are certain signatures that if we identify them, we can prepare a specific thing for you. Now, but somehow this got linked to AI by people, like Beth Bezos or whatever, which is tenuous. Like, what does AI have to do with any of this now? This is the stage 3 trial, which means this research has been ongoing for a few years.
Well, what does AI have to do with it? It has to do with people having new funding rounds of their companies that require the use of AI as the lead advertisement for why you want to invest in it.
This is something to look out for. Abuse of AI, both from the pro and the anti camps, in order to sort of attribute good or bad things to it. It's like a totem now. We're all just hanging off whatever anxieties or hopes we have in life to AI. It's it's or maybe let me put it differently. I think there's this might be the first time we're able to observe up close, and we can maybe continue monitoring this as a theme. Not with flock cameras, by the way, just not to get anyone in trouble. Just monitoring ourselves, with the internet. Like how the sort of psychodynamics of the AI term is evolving through the news, because I feel like it's going to be a very interesting area where again AI is invoked to do all sorts of things.
Can we swap out AI for just like large matrices?
Technology, mathematics is being used.
They're using large matrices to.
Multiplication is used to do.
Yeah, like effectively, like you could narrow down the procedures. I mean, look, there's different. The world of AI, sort of automated learning, roughly in most cases boils down to gradient descent and back propagation still. Right, like
sure, but I mean, the discovery of gradient descent and back propagation did not lead to this particular recent burst, right? So there must be some other ingredients, but anyway.
Well, no, but even one of when ChatGPT came to become the explosive thing that everyone was talking about on the scene, and bring large language models into the public parlance. One of the things that Sam Altman tweeted that was sort of, at the time, controversial in the AI world was using a process of stochastic gradient descent and backpropagation as the learning mechanism. That there were people who thought that would not necessarily scale enough to be able to do the types of rapid learning.
Are you
that would
shitting
be
on Yann
necessary.
LeCun again?
Huh?
Peter, are you shitting on Yann LeCun again?
I might be, but my point is that for a lot of the technology and a lot of the things outside of the specific architecture of some of the pipelines, a lot of it is still from the 70s, right? Like
it is,
it
is. But whatever it is, we've not only recently been able to scale it to a point where it can do the sort of thing. I guess GPUs, maybe, let's say big GPUs are being used. Like that could be the problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I don't know. I'm just finding. I guess let me put it differently. I'm just finding a divorce between factuality and like the impact the story is having, and I'm finding that the use of the term AI is central to creating that division. Coming undone of what is actually happening and what is people's reaction. The presence of AI seems to be just ungluing, the two things that they're generally there's some logic to A and B, and when AI comes into the game, people are just fucking going insane, and you're wait, what's the problem? And they speak words, and some of the words make sense, others don't, but in general the whole thing doesn't add up, so to speak. It's okay, if you're upset about surveillance, then shouldn't we be protesting the NSA? I don't know, why this specific particular thing here? And you could say well, it's new, right? So it's an additional intrusion, and that does kind of make sense somehow, but also again, why this is not particularly satisfied for me. Anyway, whatever. Let's keep going, and we'll get to it. I'm just trying to.
I have clips from the. I'm guessing this isn't the official All In podcast. It's on the same channel, but it's like a.
They have an interview track and a weekly track. So this was on the interview track.
Now this is a character I'm not particularly fully familiar with. I guess his name's Jason. I don't follow him on Twitter or anything like that.
I am very familiar with him.
So I don't know.
Claims some Greek origin, which
I don't know his history.
He is an angel investor type. If you hear him, he'll tell you he invested in Uber at the angel round, and he made a lot of money doing it and whatever. He's a well-known type, and for long ass time. And
okay. Alex, you disappeared. Hopefully we get you back. You faded out into a metallic Matrix-style void. Hopefully we get you back. So what we have here, Alex, is what you sent me from Jason in the All In podcast, which is an interview from Jason from All In podcast with the CEO of Flock Camera, doing what I would characterize as somewhat of a PR piece. It was not necessarily a hard-pressed interview. It was very, very much, hey, we're friends, and I'm giving you a platform to defend your company, and I'll give you a couple questions that are some, that ask what might be on some antagonist minds, but I'm not going to push you too hard on them. So, because I'm your friend and everything. So I'm going to play a little bit of that, and hopefully, Alex, let me know when you come back. Just chime in whenever you return here.
Tell us a little bit about Flock Safety and how many communities you're in now. And then also the drone component, because people know the license plate readers, maybe they don't know the drones. So let's just get that footprint and build a mental model for the audience here.
That's great. Yeah, Jason, thanks for having me. So I started the company 9 years ago with a pretty simple mission, which is to live in a safer neighborhood. And that was our initial pitch. If you look at our first 2 or 3 years in business, it was just neighborhoods. We sold to neighborhoods, and we sold a license plate reading camera, which is pretty basic technology. A car drives by, we take a still image of the vehicle, we read the license plate. And the system's gotten more sophisticated with time. We can detect things like a roof rack or a bumper sticker or dent or damage. But that's at its core what the technology does. And if you look at like last year, to your point, we've had a tremendous impact on the country. North of 1 million crimes solved using Flock, north of 10,000 people found who were missing. And that's everything from our grandparents with dementia to our children. Like just last week in Atlanta, there was a stolen car that happened to have a 2-year-old in the backseat. And thankfully, because of very hard work by Atlanta Police Department and our cameras, that little kid was safely returned within the hour. I don't know what that would have happened without Flock. And that's one story, but that's my own city last week. And you look at July as a data point. Last month, it was about 1,125 missing people and over 20,000 stolen cars. And those are the cars we use to drive our kids to school, to drive to work. And so we're in, roughly just over 6,000 or so cities across the country. And that the consequence, of being that consequential is people have a lot of questions and people have a lot of debates. And I think it's a worthwhile thing to talk about what kind of society do we want to live in. I want to live in one where we're safer. And I want to keep my privacy while I do it. But that is hard. To find that balance is not easy.
I remember when we had our first.
Alex, are you back with us? I see that you've disconnected.
Yes, I am.
Connected. All right. So, would you agree with my setup on this beginning of this interview here that it's mostly a puff piece, giving the Flock CEO a large outlet to?
Yeah, I don't know where I was cut off, but I was about to say he will always come from the pro startup angle on this. So, I was not particularly shocked by the tone of the questioning or lack thereof.
All right, I'm going to play some of the clips here, and because I have some reactions to some of the stuff that's being said and some thoughts I want to expand
But
on.
I do want to say, because of the sort of extreme negativity that we're consuming on this company, I felt like, this by itself is not balanced, but in context, it's a valuable thing to take in. Because they're, at least the CEO is giving his side of the story.
Absolutely.
Recorded.
It's tough.
It's a wacky environment.
It is. It can be particularly wacky. But we go, right? Because we want people to know what they're buying.
Yes.
And so they buy the product. And, what has been true for the last 9 years is we've always said, this data is a liability, not an asset. You should have a set retention period. And that retention period for how long this data will be stored is going to determine the efficacy of the product. And so if you delete this data in a day or two, it's going to be less effective. It's still going to be better than nothing. And if you hold this for 30 days, it's going to be pretty effective. And if you hold it for a year, it'd be more effective. And we always believed city councils should have that final say for how long they want to store it and who they want to share it with. And so
Alex, he just said here, and this is where I get a little peeved at the setup for this being so friendly. He just said, we've always taken the position that this data is a liability, not an asset. And then goes on to explain how the longer you retain it, obviously, the better you're going to be able to solve crimes with it. So what exactly, who's it a liability for in his mind? And who is he always saying this to?
It's like taking a loan, Gator. It's a liability, right? Accounting wise, but it can help you have liabilities sometimes. Yeah, no, look, it is very helpful to hear the CEO say some things, and then some of the things he's saying are like, your messaging is going to need a little workshopping before you take it to a broader platform. Let me put it this way.
For the longest time, 30 days was our default. We've recently shifted that down to 7 days. We think that's a reasonable trade-off, but we still think cities should decide, or states for that matter. But someone who is democratically elected should have the final decision of how this technology works in their community. But what I think you probably agree with, as a technology provider, we have to set strong defaults.
Defaults matter is what we say in the industry.
Yes.
And, if you think about the number of crimes, of 100 crimes, how many would, and I'm sure you have some idea of this, if we have 100 crimes that occurred, of whatever the nature are, how many are solved with 7 days of data, 30 days of data, or require more than 30 days? Do you have that?
We have a good sense, right? I mean, I'm going to give you an aggregate data point across the whole country. We think 90% of crimes will get solved within 7 days of data retention.
Beautiful.
It is, Jason, but I would tell you, I've probably talked to 200 or 300 police chiefs this week, and they remind me, and I tell them, you should tell your city council this too.
Yeah.
The 10% we're talking about, or the 10% you read about in the news, though.
Oh.
Right. It's the homicide that there was never a 911 call because someone was killed, and it takes 5 days to discover the body because of a welfare check, and then it's a complicated case. Or it's, look, and I'm sorry to go to this topic. It's a rape victim who felt guilt, who felt shame, and she didn't call 911 until a week later because she wasn't ready.
Yes.
And that's real life, right? Like I deal with this every day, so I'm probably less sensitive to it, but these victims deserve privacy. They deserve accountability for the people who
it's a
attacked
process
them.
To even identify the crime. So what you're saying is, now, would 30 days of the 10% remaining that, we're just ballparking here, but that last 10%, how many of those out of 10 would be resolved with 30 days of data?
We think the majority. And look, we're not going to lose. We're not going to tell cities how to run themselves. And to be clear, there's states like New Jersey where state law is 5 years. And so every customer holds it for 5 years. In the state of California, there's a max retention. In the state of Washington, most states have now adopted regulation and they set a maximum limit. And I think for me, Jason, what's important more than my just default is making sure city councilors and mayors are educated that they have control. They can make this choice.
So now, Alex, I'm very confused at this point. So if we have a policy by Flock that says, okay, we're going to change this from a 30-day data retention to a 7-day data retention, in his statements right there, he's almost saying that actually at the state level, they have data retention laws that say that they must keep it for 5 years. So now I'm confused. Is he saying that that now he's in those jurisdictions, his hands are tied, and that this will be maintained for 5 years? I don't understand. I don't know where we are now, because that sounded to me like he was saying that those states with a 5-year data retention are going to retain the data for 5 years, and that it doesn't matter if the policy was 30 or 70 on the application level. Alex, you're muted if you're talking. Alex, are you there? Alex. Okay. You're not there. Jump in whenever you...
I'm here.
There you go. Okay.
Found a button. All
right, cool.
So I was saying that the magic word he said was 7-day defaults. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that means during the setup process, most likely, there's going to be a place where they say, how long would you like retention of data? And for new police departments that have not installed this yet, I'm assuming, it will say now and for the future 7 days, unless there's some retention limits by the state, in which case that takes over. He kind of said, so Jersey says 5 years. Washington has some other limit that I don't know. Probably should look it up. But he also I just want to make clear that he didn't say that for everybody else 7 days. It says the default is 7 days, which means that whoever is in control of that drop down effectively could set it to 5 years, or who knows, maybe 20, maybe forever. Who knows?
It sounds like though, okay, so the default setting on the app is going to be 7 days, but the states have 5-year data retention policies, which means that default's going to be changed pretty much automatically. Yeah. And then he says that, I believe it should be up to the municipality, the local townspeople. But if it's up to the state on a 5-year data retention thing, it's not up to those people, whether you think it should be or not.
Well, okay, yeah, but that's normal, right? If you make a technology, you don't get to set how it's going to be used. It's the government that sets that, and you might have different opinions, but it doesn't matter.
That's correct, but you are now confusing the issue. If you want to say that your company is trying to help steer the customer into better default settings to try to help ameliorate the possibility of abuse. And then immediately say, but guess what? It doesn't actually matter that we're doing that because all of the states that we're talking about here have these policies that mean that the massive surveillance that you're worried about is going to happen, but we just want to use statements right now so that you stop blaming us, and because we want to trick you into thinking that it's not going to happen.
I see what you mean.
Like,
what you're saying is that this is like virtue signaling, and it doesn't really matter because if like the vast majority of states or counties or whatever will set something else, then the 7 days doesn't matter. And in fact, I could even go one step further and say that from what he said, it was pretty clear that he does not believe that 7 days is the right default.
Yeah, he said that 30 days would, because the extra, he said out of 100 cases, they could solve, 90 of them with the 7 day thing. But the 10 that they fail to solve are the ones that get all the headlines, and the 30 days would be able to do that. So he still was like arguing for the 30
He said
days.
the majority of the remaining, right? So it could be like 95, 98, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm at a
but
loss.
All I'm saying is that he was making an argument for keeping it more than 7, which means that he doesn't believe that his default is kind of the correct default. Anyway, that was kind of interesting. But yeah, so I'm not at the place where. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Finish your sentence.
No, I'm just saying I'm not I don't know if this was completely disingenuous, in which their default doesn't make any difference and they just set it there for virtue signaling.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt on his let's say his personality, meaning I'm not necessarily saying that he's ill-intended in his desires to start the company or even run the company. I am merely just reacting to this puff interview, a very, very well framed interview from his standpoint, and the inconsistencies in the messaging that he's given to these otherwise softball questions that he should be able to hit rather out of the park,
yeah.
Challenge. People were ripping down the cameras. People care about privacy, not just here in the United States, by the way. In the UK, people are ripping down cameras. There are a group of people who are entitled to this opinion, and I share it on the margins. When I had children, it changed dramatically because number one for me is security. I'm willing to give up my license plate data. If somebody knows my exact whereabouts for 30 days of my license plates, I'm okay with that. Because I have children and I'm okay with giving up that amount of privacy. I would be a little concerned, I think, with the with facial recognition, if I'm being totally honest.
I've listened to this a couple times, Alex. I can't figure out Jason's nuance there. Why is he okay with them meticulously knowing the location of himself via his license plate, but not okay with the facial tracking? Like, what is he worried about with the facial tracking if they also know where he is?
It's additional granularity. I guess they know who you are, where you are with who, I guess, right? It's more detail, how, perhaps, in what state. I don't know. It's more stuff. Like, it doesn't, like, I agree with you. It doesn't, it's a qualitative difference. Rather, it's a quantitative difference, not a qualitative difference, in my opinion. It's like, okay, they can see a little bit more. The point is, like, there's a large amount of people, aka drivers, that can be tracked as if they're like fucking Sims on a, in Sim City, where this guy's here, beep beep beep. They can literally set alerts for your whereabouts.
Right.
So I think, look, Jason is a fucking virtue signaler par excellence. So I didn't really focus on what he said there because, frankly, he just says stuff in order to try to play to both sides here, right? One side is like, I want to be pro tech, pro startup, and his other side is like, but I'm a sort of concerned citizen, and I have to make my points about privacy somehow, and not appear to be a shill. So I'm just going to say this about the cameras or whatever. Like, I don't spend too many brain cycles on what Jason's saying, but I do actually want to say something about what the CEO said before, though, that I missed, and I wanted to make sure I don't forget it. Where he said, I believe that somebody democratically elected should be controlling effectively how much privacy you should get, right?
Mhm.
And I think this is a huge misunderstanding here, because ultimately rights are guaranteed by the Constitution to not be at 50% vote, 50%
Mhm.
plus one vote, can take away your rights, right? Your rights are like something that should be affected by like I don't know, every individual state unanimously, or something stupid like that, where like it's almost impossible to change the Constitution just because 51% thinks that, you know, nobody should have this kind of right, or even he said somebody democratically elected. So they might not even be elected on this particular subject, right? They're not a proxy for the people.
That would be my major complaint. Look, I mean, I'm always going to have lots of complaints, but let's imagine that now that jurisdictions that have this have, just like you might elect local judges or something, might have a flock troller general, right? Okay, you might have the person who is elected to set the policy, the flock policy. That might be one thing, but you are talking about people who are trying to run for election in areas where you have at least 50 other things to discuss.
So you have the defund the police candidate, right? And the other candidate is the tough on crime candidate. And now you're stuck, right? Trying to choose the guy, like not be, you know, a defund the police person. And then the other person is like, yeah, I think the camera feed should be kept indefinitely. It's like, great, amazing. I feel very represented right now.
Well, I'm saying, like, the people who are, quote, now currently, quote, democratically elected to manage these things are managing and running for election on 17,000 different subjects, right? Different considerations. Exactly. Like, you know, it's like it
becomes just another checkbox in the very large program, if it even is there and if it even arises. Right. Yeah. And you get to pick a bundle, which means that the weight of that particular subject is like a small amount. Anyway, you get to, that's why I'm saying defund the police versus tough on crime. Like it's probably a very coarse-grained thing that controls 100 variables, and good luck.
Yeah, right.
Ultimately. But anyway, long story short, even you know, if it wasn't like that, I think the fact that my personal liberties have to do with what, you know, the people that happen to live here think about they should be. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it's supposed. You're confusing, you know, things about like how often the trash men should show up versus what rights do I have, and these two things are not the same.
But you know, it's kind of a moving target, and I guess the reaction you guys had was, and I think I had talked to you about this, is you called them terrorists, like the people taking the cameras down and, you know, this kind of thing. Where does this audience who's ripping down cameras, I mean, they're obviously not terrorists. I think they're like activists, I would say would be a better descriptor. But you guys haven't communicated this perfectly, in my opinion.
Correct.
So where are people coming to you with valid concerns?
Yep.
And then how have you evolved your ability to communicate what you're doing? And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on this, is because I looked at it and I was like, I don't think you're doing a particularly good job of communicating this. And I also think the people who are ripping down the cameras, they think they're in a surveillance state with permanent records and facial recognition. So I think they don't actually understand the nuances and contours of the product. So talk about where you got it right, where you got it wrong, and how you've evolved in communication.
Yeah, no. And look, I'm far from perfect, and I've made my fair share of mistakes over the last year. And good God, over the last decade, I tried to write it down one time and the list got pretty long, and I was like, this isn't helping me move forward. I'm going to keep focused on what I need to do in the future. I mean, to your point on vandalism, it's pretty sad because these individuals are getting kind of amped up on TikTok and on Instagram to go take action. And I don't know if they realize they're committing a felony, you know, and I saw this individual who just got arrested in, I think it was either Ohio or Illinois. And Jason, like he's facing like 15 to 20 years in jail. Oof. And I'm thinking, I feel horrible, right? It's like, I don't think I hope maybe he realized it, but what if he didn't? And the person who's on TikTok or Instagram that's pushing this, they're not the ones cutting these things down.
Alex, I don't know, when you listen to this, did you actually watch any of the scenery that was in the video for this interview?
I go on. Assume no.
I'm looking at it right now, and this
I
the first time around I noticed that he has only 2 books on his desk. One is called Icons, and the other is Fine Timepieces, which is about really expensive watches. And
so,
but I'm paying attention now to the right hand side here, and you want to know he's framed. He's framed a quote about his company, and I don't know, I can't read where the source is, but the quote about his company that he has framed, that is now in view as he's defending his company, quote, "Snitching ass startup raises $10 million to privatize the surveillance state." Now,
maybe it was about his opponents.
I could understand being the CEO and deciding to frame a quote that you find to be particularly hyperbolic and insane, right? Like, you get negative press coverage and you expect to have negative press coverage and go, this is the most absurd quote, or this is the funniest absurd quote about what we're doing. But when you're going on your defense, you should probably take that quote out of there.
Yeah,
move it out of the camera.
Maybe slip it into your luxurious watches book, for example.
just tilt it over, because snitching ass startup raises $10 million to privatize the surveillance state is probably not the quote that you want to have for the entirety of your interview about how you're not a surveillance company.
Because one of my recurring projects that I keep trying to do with AI, and it's been a very interesting source of learnings for me, is the exact thing you did. Because, podcasters tend to have a large library, right, behind them, usually with a bunch of books. And I bet you that they don't actually carefully look at what those books are. It's just their library, and they sit themselves in front of it. But it's not easy to take a screenshot and give it to an LLM, because there's just so much stuff in there, right? And to properly extract it, you probably need multiple frames over multiple days, whatever. Mm-hmm. Point being, I have been working on this, and one day I'll have it, which will automatically give me a list of books from, you just tell it the podcast and it gives you, it does some deep imaging. Let's call it a flock for podcaster library.
All right, who has the guide to anal sex on his library book?
That's right. I think I picked up Lolita on somebody's library.
There you go.
They're doing this for likes and views, and that I don't like, right? Because when that camera is cut down and there's that Amber Alert, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
and that I still don't have a lot of space in my heart for people who choose to commit a felony versus go to city council and scream and fight for what they believe in. That is literally
vote,
democratic process.
They can join city council, and there have been a number of cities that have decided to take Flock down. Am I correct? And the backlash has caused that, and you're okay with that if that's the community's choice. I would assume.
Yeah, and it's obviously disheartening when a city chooses to be less safe. That's tough to hear when there's so many other options to reduce the efficacy of the product versus just take them out. To me, the individuals who only look at privacy or only look at safety are both on the wrong side of the equation. We've got to find a common ground.
There's a phrasing there that he used that sometimes you can tell by the way that people speak what their real frame of mind is. And he just said, it's disappointing when they decided to, take it, be less safe, which is a tell, right? But then he also said there's other ways to reduce the efficacy. That's the only direction that he thinks you go, is that you can have an effective product or an ineffective product, and then there's a gradient of effectiveness. Because and that is in counter, and that's counter to where I started my objection at the beginning of this, where he said, we've always said that this the data retention is a liability, not an asset. But okay, but the reducing the data retention period is reducing the efficacy according to you. And I'm thinking the efficacy is an asset, not a liability. So
maybe you should say, I wonder if their setup procedure says efficacy 7 days, efficacy 30 days.
Like,
it's like, I don't know, man. Look, he clearly doesn't think that his product has downsides, which is, look, I empathize, and to some degree I'm biased, right? Because as a startup founder, having been there, having done that, I understand a lot of what's going on in his mind. And it's very tough when the thing you've worked on for, a significant amount of time of your life and you've really sweated and suffered for, is being attacked aggressively, right? Your natural instinct is to defend it. And everybody around you is telling you to defend it. Your employees tell you to defend it because if they didn't like what you're doing, they would have left, right? Your investors definitely are telling you to defend it. And you want to defend it because it's your baby. So, I kind of understand where he's coming from. And frankly, like, I do want to say, like, I wasn't even aware of some of the crime statistics that he brings up. And I do think that people aren't probably aware of the types of solves that the technology has brought. And it's definitely a variable in there. But on the other side, he doesn't seem to truly, sense that there's like really anything wrong with his baby. Like he's on the other side where he's like, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's efficacy, right? And if you don't want it to be so efficacious, maybe we can make it like less good, but it's not our fault that we're too awesome, baby. Like,
like we get paid regardless of how much you use it. So
yeah, and if you want, go scream at a mayor or something as if that's going to do anything. But that's totally
just
cool
buy the product
like,
and you can turn it off. Just just make sure that you have the agreement in place. You can make it less efficacious.
Yes, you see. Anyway, yeah. So, but I agree with you though. Fundamentally, I just wanted to sort of highlight the opposite side of it. But and again, even with what he says, it's like. For example, I don't know if you've clipped this, but at some point in his interview, he's like, look, we've got this audit product, but we don't want to we want to make it available to police departments to turn on. We don't want to have it on by default where you have to ask permission from somebody else because maybe like there's a small police department here and it's going to be too cumbersome for them. And it's like, you don't get it, dude. Like, we're not asking, people, again, I'm like on the less sort of upset about this, but like, the people who are pissed at you, they're not sort of like asking you to be like, to give them a fig leaf. They want this thing controlled by some sort of judicial gate, right?
Well, I was just about to say that it would be nice to hear supported legislative changes he would like to see to help balance the utility of his product with the privacy concerns, and going from the default setting of 7 days or discussing 7 days to 30 days, having some sort of proposed or desired legislation that says within the 7 days you can just run the search, but past 7 days the data will be retained, but then you need a judicial warrant to do the search.
Right. That's a good idea.
Right. Something like that.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Or perhaps to set an alert for someone's location. Well, maybe that's basically surveillance. So you kind of need like the equivalent of a FISA court or something. Which again is a rubber stamp, but at least forces you to go on the record for some things. It's a little bit harder than just clicking a button.
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah, no, I agree with you that this is looking to me more like he was coached and he went on a friendly platform to put some things on the record than that he has any genuine concerns that keep him up at night about what his product might be doing.
This is the last couple segment here for his interview, and then we have more to go to.
And where do you feel? Obviously, vandalism's an easy one. Okay,
that's an easy one. Yeah,
that's an easy one. But there's a nuance here. Like, hey, I didn't opt into this. I don't want my license plate in there. Is there an ability for them to opt out? And what is the max now for the amount that's saved? And then really, this is a very nuanced point. What's the audit trail here? If there's a dirty cop, as described, who's into Tony Soprano for 100 dimes for his betting on NFL games, and he wants to give the mob or somebody like a bunch of life,
As an aside, I hate the way that Jason frames these questions with the fantastical sort of television show idea of corrupt cops. It's like literally we have examples of cops who are just like, I thought the woman was hot. Like,
yep.
That you don't need corruption beyond just regular human tendency to use the features of the tools at their disposal to pique their curiosity.
License plate data from Flock. What's to stop the dirty cop?
Yeah.
What's to stop this? And do faults matter? But also, like, what's the largest window people can use today on Flock?
Let's hit on the abuse thing, because I think that's something that, I was called naive. I would say maybe optimistic. I grew up in Atlanta. I trusted the police. I've always trusted the Atlanta Police Department. And, over the last year, I've spent a lot of time talking to people who don't like Flock. Mm-hmm. And I finally got to the bottom of it. So I was like, why do you hate this company so much? We sell a camera. Yeah. And I realized this woman was like, Garrett, I don't trust the police at all. And I was like, that's the root issue.
No, my root issue, Alex, is he just framed this as over the last year, he learned that there were people who didn't trust the police. Alex?
Well, he was called naive, so
I don't care if he grew up in Atlanta. This man was unconscious for the entire year of 2020, where literally
and where do you feel
for months the cities
maybe he was like Jason
fucking down.
He was in a coma for a year or something, and then had to be woken up
with slogans being chanted that all cops are bastards. And the press ran on, like, the New York Times had the headline, "Yes, we mean defund the police," literally, as the headline. Like,
yep.
And he's just like, oh, some people don't like police. I learned this now. Like, you cannot possibly be this. I mean, you might say I underestimated how rampant the problem was, even in pro-police areas, that there was still enough of an anti-trust in the police departments, even among those who were pro-blue, right? But like, the way that he's saying this is just like, oh, it's an epiphany in the last year. It's like, okay, then you have absolutely, you just don't pay attention to a single fucking thing in your environment. I can't trust you in anything you're saying now. You just don't. You woke up yesterday.
Obviously, vandalism's an easy one. Okay,
that's an easy one. Yeah,
that's an easy one. But there's a nuance here. Like, hey, I didn't opt into this. I don't want my license plate in there. Is there an ability for them to opt out? And what is the max now for the amount that's saved?
Because I think that's something that, I was called naive. I would say maybe optimistic. I grew up in Atlanta. I trusted the police. I've always trusted the Atlanta Police Department. And, over the last year, I've spent a lot of time talking to people who don't like Flock. Mm-hmm. And I finally got to the bottom of it. So I was like, why do you hate this company so much? We sell a camera. Yeah. And I realized this woman was like, Garrett, I don't trust the police at all. And I was like, that's the root issue. And I was like, but why? And she was like, they lie, they cheat, they steal. I don't trust any of them. And I'm like, okay, man, what if you're right and I'm wrong? And
that might be the case. There have been many.
For her.
Yeah, she's right. There have been many cases of police departments that have subverted, even the wearable cameras. They turn them off. Yes. I mean, we have ICE agents wearing masks and no numbers. So the public
is rightfully concerned.
It's rightfully concerned. And they're bundling you as their partner. Now I get it.
Yes. Now,
so that's where they have a valid concern.
Yes. And so we said, it's interesting. And I think if you make it a more macro topic, anyone in a position of power, there's a higher likelihood of abuse. Look at CEOs, look at elected officials, look at police. Sure. When you're in power, abuse tends to follow not too far behind. And so when we met, 6 or 7 years ago, we had the audit log. And my assumption was like, this is good enough. This is what most police systems do, is they have this audit log. But what I didn't realize is, I was meeting with a large agency in Southern California, and they've got something like 1,000 officers a day that use Flock. And imagine they're doing 5 or 6 searches a day. Yes. And imagine on once a month, one person is supposed to review that audit log.
Yeah.
So they're going to spot check 10 or 20 searches, which is the best they can do, and then move on. And so 4 months ago, we built this new tool called Audit Assistance. Because, we solved 1 million crimes last year. So we have a pretty good sense for what normal usage looks like. And then we had about, just under a dozen abuses over the last 8 years that we had detected, and said, well, we also kind of know what abuse looks like.
Alex, I have an objection right there. And maybe I'm being overly sensitive in my objections here. Maybe I'm just reacting in a way that is unwarranted given this this setup here. But the way he's describing it is he's just learning the dynamics of the people who are his customers, and that he's never thought about these products. I thought the audit log was enough. Oh, but then I realized that there's large police departments where, you can't just have one guy spot checking the audit log. Like it's almost as if basically the entire idea behind the company was that they had the ability to plug in and play some AI detection to get the license plate reader. And then they just started selling that. And then everything else was an afterthought. And they started selling this to people and didn't know anything about their customers for the longest time. They didn't, you don't just discover this type of problem in your workflow.
I'm about to blow this guy's mind, okay? I don't trust people in general. It's not even about elected politicians or police officers or startup founders or whatever. And in fact, it's not just me. It goes, unfortunately for him, it goes much deeper. This is why we have constitutions. This is why, we don't just get a guy to run the place and we're like, hey, good, do a good job, all right? This is the entirety of who watches the watchers, checks and balances. This was not happened yesterday, right? This is literally the foundation of the country, why it is what it is, and why I choose to be here rather than somewhere else. Because suppose there's some foundation to attempt. I'm not saying it's working very well, but it's also we're grading on a curve here because consider the alternatives. But the topic of the fact that people can't be just given carte blanche and we'll put an audit log in your buddy, another cop, by the way, right, with no particular protections on his side for snitching on other cops and whatever, right? We're not told here, by the way, how the thin blue line works. Even in the one case that the guy was caught, we observed, we heard that his arrest was treated much differently. When you're arrested for something, right, you don't have your buddies coming over and saying oh, you'll get over it, it'll be fine, dude, just it'll be cool, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed at you. You got the cops on you. And they shove you in a cell or whatever. I don't know. I haven't been arrested yet.
I will. In defense there, you will see in a lot of interviews when they're trying to coax a confession out of someone for something that they've done, they will give a nice, for example, there's
maybe they were
people
playing
who have
bad cop or
well, people who have child pornography on their cell phones or something like that. The cops will be saying things that you would never imagine actually saying to a person. Oh, I get it. We've all been there. You're on the internet and you get curious and you start clicking around. They try to coax admissions from those people through camaraderie. I get it. It's so I'll defend the cop in that standpoint.
Fine. Good cop, bad cop, very, very worse cop. Got it. Anyway, long story short, this isn't, again, this isn't the case of you don't even need to personalize it to we don't trust cops. It's people in general should not have unchecked power. And this is kind of the foundation of the, of the way of government in this country. This is not a novel discovery. Occurred to you while doing customer discovery or something. Anyway.
Well, let's move forward, Alex.
But again, on the other hand, and perhaps you have noticed this, socializing, as I imagine, with technical folk, a lot of people are shockingly unaware of much of what goes on around them in the world, to like degrees that, you know, in the context that we are discussing here, like you'll be like, their jaw will drop.
Yeah.
They just have no context about the world around them.
Yeah, that I am shocked often, surprised by things. Now, let's move forward, Alex, off of the Flock stories, because I think we covered that pretty well and reacted to the CEO's interview enough here, and move on to the money/affordability crisis situation that we had, where I was talking about Burrito Gate, and I went on a little bit of a rant in my personal issues with what I was seeing being discussed, and my general position / take was that the populist movement that brought Trump to the presidency and has the ability to bring people like Mamdani into power in New York are making it so that whether or not you are a Republican or a Democrat, the chances are you're going to be surrounded by people who are largely economically illiterate and are going to demand that prices just don't change, or if they don't like the price on something, that it's the government's responsibility to do something about it, and that we're going to wind up getting bad policy as a result of these demands. And one of the things that I had mentioned was that, broadly speaking, the Biden-era inflation that was caused by the $1.5 trillion of money that was printed and injected into the economy during the pandemic, along with the monetary rule changes that merged M1 and M2, which I explained last time, are what caused the Biden-era inflation. And the Biden-era inflation was a situation where prices were rising and the incomes of people were not rising fast enough to catch up. But that by and large, that has subsided, and now the grocery store prices are more historically in line with regular inflation patterns, and that as part of the bad signs of people's economic interpretations was that people were focusing on beef prices specifically, and basically saying that was a representation of the prices being out of control and the affordability crisis, and that they demanded the government do something. And I had mentioned that there were actual reasons why the beef prices were high due to historic shortages, and there was an article I didn't read that went into sort of the recent history of what has happened with beef prices. Well, it turns out that we're going to need to go a little bit into that in order to discuss what I would call sort of my prophecies coming true when it comes to just bad economic policies coming out.
Are you talking about Donald Trump submitting his application to run for the head of the DSA?
It is part of it. It is part of it. We'll. So this is from NPR from May, which is why the U.S. cattle herd is at a 75-year low and what it means for beef prices. Beef has long been an iconic and beloved staple of the American diet, from barbecue to hamburgers to steaks. 1 second here. Yet the U.S. cattle herd, including both beef and dairy cattle, is the smallest it's been in 3/4 of a century. Domestic producers had 86.2 million head of cattle on the first day of this year, according to U.S. Department of Agriculture data, the lowest number since 1951. A number of factors have been pushing livestock numbers down, including rising costs, drought, international competition, and increased consolidation in the cattle industry. Now, there are fewer American farmers and ranchers than there were even a few years ago, according to Bill Bullard, CEO of the cattle and sheep producers group R-CALF USA. Quote, "We have likewise lost the cows that they once maintained," he said. "So we have seen our herd shrink at an alarming rate for the past several decades." The record high prices paid for cattle lately have also prompted many producers to sell their livestock and have dissuaded them from buying new animals to rebuild their herds, further diminishing the overall domestic cattle supply. U.S. beef production has remained strong, though, because even though herd size has shrunk in recent decades, cattle themselves have grown. Farmers and ranchers say expenses such as those for diesel, fuel, equipment parts, fertilizer, and even the animals themselves are all up. Operators who have to take out loans to buy cattle or fund infrastructure improvements are facing higher costs and have to decide how much debt they're willing to tolerate in a volatile livestock market. Amanda Hall, who lives in Lexington, Kentucky, on a farm with her husband, Reed Hall, and their 2 children, said the financial promise of the agricultural business can be unpredictable. The Halls have a herd of about 125 mama cows, and they also background hundreds of steer per year, buying them after they've weaned and selling them before the finishing stage, when they reach their final weight before slaughter. What Amanda calls the middle school for livestock. Quote, "We could put another 100 head out on grass, what with our grass will hopefully be this spring, but then you're also wondering too, is that too much of a risk?" she said late February. "You're also paying higher interest costs." The Halls love farming. After the couple graduated from the University of Kentucky, the 2 bought a group of 16 bred heifers and calved them out together. When they got married, a family friend gave them a White Park heifer as a wedding present. But they said higher operational costs, the difficulty of borrowing money, and the loss of workable farmland due to urban sprawl have made running their farm, as well as farms across the U.S., a greater challenge. "I think there's still a sector of young people that have an interest in AG," Reed Hall said, "but the barriers to entry in agriculture are huge. Many livestock producers are hanging up their hats. The USDA reported that there were 882,692 cattle operations in 2017, but just 732,123 5 years later, roughly a 17% decline. And those who leave aren't being replaced by an equal number of young farmers. The median U.S. farmer age is 58 years old, according to a 2023 U.S. Senate Committee on Aging report, making it the oldest workforce in the country. Even in the best of times, cattle producers are also at nature's whim. Severe weather, such as droughts and wildfires, which are becoming more frequent and severe due to climate change, can occur without warning and saddle operators with unexpected costs. The Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, in a 2023 paper, found that farm earnings tend to decline with drought, and that farms in areas facing severe drought suffered even worse financial losses. Jason Clear, a professor and extension beef cattle specialist at Texas A&M University, said the higher retail prices that beef shoppers see at the grocery store reflect the harsh financial reality facing farmers and ranchers. Quote, "Our expenses have gone up, and just like your beef prices have gone up," said Clear, who has about 25 cows of his own. "I don't want our ranchers to be painted as the bad guys that are evil and that are taking all the money. We are just finally caught up to where we can make a good living now." High demand for beef and fewer cattle are driving up prices, but another factor hovering over the livestock market, the New World screwworm. Largely eradicated in the U.S. since the mid-20th century, the screwworm has recently been detected throughout Mexico, including one instance in September, less than 70 miles from the border with the United States. The parasitic bug, resembling a housefly, lays its eggs inside living animals like livestock, and the maggots hatched from those eggs burrow into their hosts and eat them alive. In May 2025, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins blocked all imports of live cattle, horses, and bison across the United States southern border with Mexico. According to USDA data, Mexico accounted for about 62% of U.S. cattle imports between 2020 and 2024. With that supply cut off, there's more demand for U.S. cattle. If you take that number of cattle out of the beef supply chain, yes, it's going to increase the value of the rest of the calves that ranchers are selling domestically here, said Clear. And rebuilding a cattle herd is not a quick fix. A cow's gestation period is 9 months, and Clear said a calf typically grows for at least 17 months before it's slaughtered. Cattle producers have also contended with an increasingly consolidated meatpacking industry, the companies at the tail end of the supply chain that turn finished cattle into beef products you buy at the grocery store. Just 4 companies have accounted for more than 80% of the U.S. cattle processing market since 1995, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It used to be you had butchers everywhere and you had a lot of different options on how to market your cattle, said Scott Wilbeck, a pet funeral director and the co-owner of 2 Texas cattle operations. But those 4 firms now have a monopoly on the meatpacking sector and dictate sale prices, Wilbeck said. The ranchers keep getting paid less and less for cattle, but your prices at the grocery store keep going higher and higher, he added. In November, President Trump directed the Justice Department to investigate the country's top 4 meat packers, JBS, Cargill, Tyson Foods, and National Beef, for potential collusion, price fixing, and price manipulation. So I'm going to finish there reading that article. But the point I wanted to highlight is there's at least several things going on with beef that make prices increasing something that is somewhat obvious and a reflection of the natural underpinnings of the circumstances in that market. Now, there's always room, in my opinion, to find government involvement in these chains, since government has been permeating rules all over the place, to find ways that it is distorting the price. I've never objected to looking for that. But simply banging your hand on the table going, the beef prices are too high, given a period where literally there's fewer beef cattle to use for consumption in the market, is absolutely asinine. And because it's asinine, and because the populist movement does not necessarily say, hey, let's be intelligent about how we handle economics, the president has responded, and nobody appears to be happy. America's largest association of cattle ranchers says Trump's plan to lower beef prices is undermining farmers. America's largest trade association of cattle producers says President Donald Trump's plan to lower beef prices is political theater. The National Cattlemen Beef Association, which represents more than 175,000 cattle producers and feeders, said on Friday that the strategy would do more harm than good for the industry. Earlier that day, Trump said the U.S. would allow up to 300,000 metric tons of beef to be imported with no out-of-quota tariff over the next 90 days. Today's announcement is not about helping producers, the association said on X. It's not about putting their finger on the scale for one cattle industry group over another. It's 100% about the 74 days between now and midterm elections. In that same thread, the association said that encouraging more beef imports undermines American cattle producers at a time when they're making decisions about rebuilding their herd numbers for next year. The association said that the administration's repeated whiplash on trade policy and beef imports directly affects rural cattle producers. U.S. farmers and ranchers need stability, the group said. Unlike spur-of-the-moment trading decisions based on White House social media posts, the decisions and investments ranchers make in their herds are made years in advance, not days or weeks. Now cow-calf producer in America is asking for increased imports. Undercutting American farmers and ranchers with inferior product from foreign competitors does nothing to create market confidence or encourage rebuilding the herd. In a separate statement, CEO Colin Woodall said the association was disappointed. Today's announcement and other market interventions throw cold water on the prospect of herd expansion and sacrifices long-term stability for short-term messaging, Woodall wrote. In recent years, the industry has been bogged down by the high costs associated with raising cattle, a shrinking national cattle inventory, and land constraints due to ongoing droughts. As a result, beef has gotten pricey for everyday Americans at the grocery stores. That's bad news for Trump, who made reducing costs and tempering inflation a central pillar for his presidential campaign. Many Americans still say they're struggling to stay afloat amid rising gas prices, a stagnant real estate market, and high food costs. That frustration could bubble up at the polls this November. This month, a report published by research marketplace Cint said that over half of the respondents ranked the cost of living as a top issue in influencing their vote for midterm elections. Other agriculture groups and some members of Trump's base also criticized his plan to lower beef prices as a short-term solution. In a statement on Friday, Oklahoma Farm Bureau President Stacy Simonek said letting foreign beef products to essentially walk in our country's front door and onto grocery store shelves threatens one of the few bright spots we have in agriculture. The prices we currently receive, we sell our beef cattle even as the cost of rising cattle increases. Now, okay, Alex, so we have a situation where we have somewhat of an impossibility triangle. Okay? We have tariffs which restrict imports, and we have tariffs at various levels. They could be quota based, where you only allow imports of a certain quantity, or you have, percentage price tariffs, which are, basically taxes, where you charge more for the imports to make sure that you're increasing the local prices to be competitive against the foreign imports.
Yes, you're protectioning the protection need.
Okay, so either those tariffs are participating in the rising costs and are negatives that we should not have, or they are things that are helping us prosper and we should keep. But there is no situation where it is just a 90-day problem, a 90-day thing that you're making a decision on. There is no situation where it's, just for 90 days we should get rid of tariffs to lower the prices. That doesn't make any sense. It's either a good idea to have the tariffs and slash quotas, or it's a bad idea to have them. It is not a 90 days idea that you throw in there. Furthermore,
but you know what it could be? What it could do to put them on for 90 days or off or whatever on a whim? It could be terrible for people who need to make multi-year decisions on resource allocation.
Yes. But even then, is the purpose of the government in the international market to try to determine what the prices are for the local farmers? That should be something that is, if that is what you have, if you decide that it is the federal government's job to assure prices for price stability for local producers, then you have an impossibility triangle, because you can't guarantee that price is going to be low.
But they're not denying it, though. You see, that's the problem. The problem is that they're acting as if that is their job, and so to some degree accepting that is their job.
So
you see what I mean?
We wind up with a situation where the demands of the public, the populace that is let's say economically ignorant from my disparaging standpoint. Yes.
Look, I understand that this is, somebody being able to make that kind of like granular decision on all sorts of, factors that feed into this economic model and really the economic reality underneath is, almost impossible to do it correctly. But I want you to feel better knowing that the person making all these, minute calculations is Donald Trump.
Oh, good. That's reassuring.
Yeah, so it's fine. He's got it. Trust the plan, bro.
Now, let's just say though, if there was an award for the dumbest economic take this week, I would give that award to one Senator Elizabeth Warren for her tweet this week that I know that you've seen because you also responded to it.
It was great.
Senator Elizabeth Warren earlier this week tweeted, "We should all be worried about, quote, dynamic pricing. That's when companies change their prices in real time. If it's hot out, the cost of ice cream could go up. If it's cold, tea bags could go up. It's a way for giant companies to squeeze you even more." And that wins my award for the most...
She can't be writing this herself, can she?
I don't know. Maybe. So let me try to give her the benefit of the doubt to make her not the top of Mount Stupid when it comes to this, because hypothetically she's supposed to be literate in economics to some degree.
Supposed to be a serious economist, actually. Just FYI.
I thought, if you want to give her the benefit of the doubt, what she was trying to complain about, which is something that many people take issue with, which is the surgical surveillance pricing, which is when the companies are using their data aggregation to develop a profile on you as an individual consumer and try to strategically price the products to you as a variable. But she's literally, in this tweet, complaining about the central feature about prices that make them logical.
Right. I want strawberries to be at the same price every part of the year. What's wrong with that?
Like every single sentence in here is amazing. That's when companies change their prices in real time. What are the alternatives to that?
Do I have a delay?
What other time are you changing prices? In fake time? In imaginary time? In complex time? In what time?
But I addressed her actually, the Steelman case, right? Like you said, where companies like Uber will try to figure out if you have means by where you live or by how fast you accept the price or whatever, and jack up the prices or not, depending on whether they judge that you can pay that, right?
Right.
But what does that do for the people? It means that rich people pay more, and then you give lower prices, perhaps even below cost, technically speaking, to poorer people who pad out your network, right? Who take, because at some point, if you just have cab drivers driving around, they're doing nothing. It's better for you to give them a ride below, cost technically.
It's the progressive taxation of the free market.
It's exact
that they wish they could do at the government level.
In fact, it is, from each according to their ability to each according to their need. It's properly Marxist is what it is. And apparently Elizabeth Warren is against it.
Well, because if they can do it, why can't I? Yeah, no, but this dynamic pricing thing I lost my shit. I lost my shit when I read this tweet, because she's like, if it's hot out, the cost of ice cream could go up. Yes, because the whole idea is you want to try to make sure that people always have the ability to choose to buy ice cream and that it is available. If you kept the price exactly the same, when the idea would be logically connected or reasonably connected, that people would want ice cream more, the average person's intrinsic desire to have ice cream goes up when it is hot out, that they would seek out the ice cream. And if you have a given stock of ice cream in your stores, you will run out of ice cream and then have no ice cream, depriving people of the option of buying it. So you raise the price to reflect that there is an increased demand with a limited stock quantity. That is logical. That is absolutely logical. But an idiot sees, oh, well, that means that their margin on the per container basis increases. Well, yes, it does on that last stock purchase. But then they have to make a new purchase because now it's getting warm out to buy more quantity to stock. So they need those margins to acquire more stock. It was beautifully stupid. It was beautifully stupid, so she wins this week, no matter what Trump does with the beef. No matter what Trump
Gator, I think I know what happened, okay?
All right.
I think I know. I have it. So imagine Elizabeth Warren. You got $7 million net worth estimates, according to the internet anyway. Most of it is invested in mutual funds, right? And you want to buy some more mutual funds. And so you put in your order to buy, blah, 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 $1 million. I want to buy, 10,000 mutual fund, whatever the unit is. You click buy, and then it says, no, the price has changed. And you're like, you can now only get 9,998 of them because the price went up by 2 cents. And I think that's when she got really pissed and said, why do the stock market prices and all the funds associated with it keep changing on me all the time? I don't like this.
That makes sense now. Thank you for educating me. Now, along the same lines, Alex, along the same lines of this affordability crisis and bad economics.
Right. Nobody's talking about the affordability crisis in mutual funds. I wonder why.
Alex, it turns out that RFK Jr. has decided to increase his portfolio of experience into becoming somewhat of a Rachel Ray acolyte. Now, Rachel Ray, I don't know if you're familiar, Alex.
No, I haven't.
Was a very popular host who did homemaking and cooking related television shows in the middle of the day. So you have a cooking themed household upkeep.
Not my normal.
All right. Well, our RFK is cutting his teeth on that aspect and is going into the daytime cooking and homemaking market. And CNN decided to review his show and try to fact check it.
I'm traveling across America, connecting with renowned chefs to show families how to cook delicious, nutritious meals.
Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s new reality show pushes healthy, affordable eating with sides of dubious claims about the food industry's science and public wellness.
Dietary guidelines put Fruit Loops at the top of the food pyramid.
But it's also the math that doesn't add up in this cooking class, especially when the secretary and his guest chef whip up crispy salmon cakes with apple, white beans, and green salad.
So the servings of each of these, we asked to keep it under $5.
That's the pitch, and prices fly by, backing the idea of a family-sized meal for a bite-sized budget.
Fresh herbs are key for me.
I am on my way to the store. But when we started buying ingredients used in the show, even going for the lowest prices at a big competitive chain, the cost heated up fast.
25. This was the cheapest frozen wild-caught sockeye salmon we could find, the closest to what they are using. They priced theirs at $8.99. The cheapest we could find, even with the deal from the store, was more than $24.
Now I can't. I gotta pause this here, Alex, because I gotta object in real time to something. Now I gotta review RFK's thing to see if I agree and to see if they were being sneaky. But CNN here, since you might not be watching the video feed here, they're saying that RFK claimed that his salmon was $8.99 for 1.5 pounds. Now $8.99 a pound for salmon is something you could potentially get at a place like Aldi. That is a reasonable per pound price you could possibly get. You can get them for $9.99 a pound at places as well. So salmon in the price range of $9 to $10 per pound is reasonable. They're saying that RFK has placed $8.99 at 1.5 pounds. That seems incorrect. They, however, are holding up something that is at least 2.5 pounds of salmon. They're claiming that their 1.5 pounds is $24. If they're paying $24 for 1.5 pounds, they are buying some insanely high-priced fucking salmon.
Oh, I see.
This is... I don't trust either number they're throwing up at the moment. Like, both of them are wrong. Like, you should be able to get... You should be able to get 1.5 pounds for approximately $15 to $18. You know, like...
Maybe they bought the smoked salmon? I don't know.
It's just out of whack what they're doing here.
Now, the greens mix, that was about the same cost. So were the eggs on a per egg basis, but that's the trick here because they're only pricing that one egg out of the carton, and that gets worse with other things. For example,
you hear what they just did there? They are lecturing.
No, I have no idea.
They're lecturing people that the price that the RFK used in order to calculate the per meal price involved the one egg that he used and didn't use the entire price of the whole carton. So he used one egg in the recipe.
This red onion, they say they only spent 8 cents on this because that's how much they used. Getting the whole onion cost us more than $1. And look at this. This is the avocado mayonnaise. They priced this at 40 cents because they were only using a couple of tablespoons. To buy the whole thing cost us more than $11. They're only pricing parts of it. And grocery.
Yes, the parts they're using specifically.
Alex, I'm just imagining that everyone at fucking CNN goes and buys an entire thing of mayonnaise, uses 2 tablespoons and throws the mayonnaise out immediately.
Throws it away, yeah, of course.
That's how they run their household.
Gator, do you think they're rich enough? CNN pays them to have fridges? Either eat it or you throw it away. What else can you possibly do? It's going to go bad.
So in fact checking his thing, instead of actually doing the real math, they're telling you the math doesn't add up because he's not factoring in the entire price of buying the entire object package, just the portion that he used as a fraction of the package. It's unbelievable, man.
It's wild.
I'm going to lose my mind. Insane. I'm going to lose my mind. The more that we talk about economics in the country, the more that this is going to be permeating our airwaves, and the more I'm going to lose my fucking mind because everyone down the chain is apparently retarded. Like there isn't a single this might as well be the forensic astrology when it comes to trying to figure things out.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. I might be a lot more cynical than you on this, but I mean, what do you know? Like, look, their vibe is RFK's lying. Okay, that's the thing. He's lying. So whatever. They just go around and cook up the numbers, and you can make a claim that maybe it's worth an asterisk, right? That like you can't actually show up to the store with $5 per meal and get out with enough ingredients to do precisely 5. Whatever,
Yeah.
You can't go in with $25 and come out with 5 meals. Got it. But like, it's also not fair to not acknowledge that you're left with a bunch of stuff that you can use for your next meal. I don't know. I mean,
now once you open the carton, the eggs expire within 30 minutes, so you have to throw the other 11 eggs out if you use just one. What?
Well, and it's also probably like 1 per dish, right? So like if you have like 5 plates, you need 5 eggs. So a lot of this gets remediated once you include all the plates one is making.
We're all doomed. We are all doomed, Alex. If any of the way that we're trying to, they used to talk about sense making. And that we had a sense-making problem. That was back in like the 2015. That was something that Eric Weinstein.
It was prophetic.
We have a sense-making problem. I don't think the sense-making problem has gone away. I think the sense-making has gotten a lot worse out there.
Have you listened to Eric Weinstein recently? Yes, it is getting worse.
All right. Well, now, Alex, we just talked about the El Presidente doing a 90-day temporary reprieve on his beef tariffs.
Look, because on some level, right? Like this is an admission that they know that the tariffs are increasing prices.
Well, if that's true, Alex, why do we have the next story?
Okay, Andrew Dimber, thank you. Now to the escalating trade war between the U.S. and Canada. President Trump imposing a 50% tariff on Canadian goods, ranging from building materials to hockey sticks. And tonight, Canada's Prime Minister firing back with retaliatory tariffs, what it could mean for consumers already hit with high prices. Here's ABC's Stephen Portnoy.
Tonight, the new North American trade war, as President Trump imposes a 50% tariff on key Canadian exports. Canada walking out of the talks at the 11th hour.
We cannot accept what they've offered, and we will not give what they've asked.
Canada's Prime Minister claiming tonight that his country has been attacked and now vowing to match the U.S. tariffs dollar for dollar.
We're going to hit back.
The new tariffs will impact just 5% of what Canada sends to the U.S., but they're expected to increase the cost of many products Americans buy, ranging from Canadian beer and whiskey to hockey sticks and building materials like cement. The Trump administration citing protections for Canadian dairy farmers and bans on the sale of U.S. alcohol in Canada.
We're moving forward with measures that respond to Canadian retaliation.
The new potential for higher prices for consumers comes just 10 weeks before voters go to the polls. Trump in South Carolina Friday, stumping for Darlene Graham, appointed to her late brother Lindsey's seat in the Senate after his death last month. Graham has Trump's backing in Tuesday's runoff against GOP Congressman Ralph Norman. But she stumbled at this week's debate, unable to answer a question about Taiwan.
I'm not that informed on national security, so...
The president coming to her defense.
She's totally for the military. I mean, she's going to do what the military wants and really what the president wants. She understands that national security is my thing. I watched that. I thought it was a very honest answer, actually.
Trump's record of picking GOP primary winners has generally been quite strong, but in just the past few weeks, Trump-backed candidates have been defeated by their Republican opponents in Michigan, Tennessee, Minnesota, Florida, and Wyoming. Whit?
All right, Stephen Portnoy out.
So why would you be ramping up more trade war and tariff shit if you were going to admit that it seems to be increasing prices during a period where people are complaining about prices?
Have you not observed the whole Iran thing, the economic fury or whatever they're calling it?
The first I've heard of this country. What? Iran?
Iran, yeah. The Iran so far, kind of like that.
Yeah, the flock of seagulls. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the flock of seagulls. So, that I could talk about. Yeah.
So, I believe that this is to do with that. I'm not 100% sure. But basically, Trump came out and said, we will pass this law that basically will punish any country that trades with Iran. Right. And you might think that that affects, like, say, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, Iraq. Who else is bordering Iran? Like Armenia. No, is Armenia? Yes, Armenia is bordering. Yes, Azerbaijan. Like, Afghanistan. That kind of country. But unfortunately, there's a slight issue that China is an enormous trading partner, right? So is Trump now going to sanction China? And what might, pray tell, China do in return? But I think the Canada thing is a minor element in that whole salvo. So in a sense, they know that it's going to hurt the US, but they're hoping it will hurt Iran more because Trump is desperate for that whole situation to buckle over before the midterms. I hope it was helpful.
So anyway, we're getting a lot of bad economics going on lately, and a bunch of people complaining with no real direction of solutions that they're asking for. They just want relief somehow. So we're doing a 90-day beef thing, and we're yelling at Canada some more. That's now, Alex. This next bit of money news is less infuriating. It's less aggravating than what we were just discussing. But this is kind of funny. This is kind of humorous. Okay. BTC, which is Bitcoin, surges to over $78,000 3 weeks after Cramer said he sold. There's a payoff at this one too. So Bitcoin traded at $78,000 on the morning of Friday, August 21st, according to a real-time rate at the time of the writing. The level arrives roughly 3 weeks after Jim Cramer said on air he was exiting his position, citing warnings about quantum computing risks to Bitcoin's encryption. During a CNBC interview with IBM CEO Arvind Krishna in late July, Krishna offered a timeline for quantum risk. I think you should give yourself 3 to 4 years, and in that time frame, I would then be cautious. Cramer's response was blunt. 3 to 4 years? David, you know when 4 years is going to happen, like tomorrow. He added, I think the people have to take this man seriously because they're doing commercial quantum. And said, I'm going to sell my Bitcoin. Reporting on the exact date varies, with some outlets placing the exchange on July 31st and others August 3 to 4, which is why careful coverage says Cramer said he sold rather than treating the sale as confirmed. No outlet has independently verified that Cramer completed a Bitcoin sale. He has not published a wallet address or transaction proof, and his position size has never been confirmed. Yahoo Finance Germany reported that Cramer later told a caller to buy Bitcoin directly rather than as a derivative product, warning that derivatives carried too much risk, though that segment could have not been independently checked. Okay, so now, after he said this, Bitcoin went to surge from $60,000 to almost upwards of $80,000 immediately after he said. And then people were discussing whether or not it was what they call a dead cat bounce. Okay, so the people are wondering whether or not there's going to be another retreat in the Bitcoin price, and that this price increase is temporarily artificial, let's say, or just a circumstance of some underlying pressures with shorts being squeezed for a short period of time. And Alex, I would say that it's hard to tell whether it's a dead cat bounce or not, because Jim Cramer recommends buying Bitcoin. Popular television host and former hedge fund manager Jim Cramer is well known for his blunt takes on the latest market movements, and whoever calls him on the show, Mad Money, is bound to get an honest response. On August 20th, Sanjay from California called Cramer to ask if the Bitmine Immersion Technologies stock is still a good buy. Bitmine Immersion is the world's leading Ethereum treasury company, which holds 5.81 million Ethereum tokens. The digital asset treasury firm also holds 210 Bitcoin on its balance sheet as of August 16th. In response to Sanjay's query, Cramer asked him to just go buy Bitcoin and not bother with derivatives like BMNR, which he said are too dangerous. You can buy Bitcoin. I like that. So anyway, Cramer said he would sell his Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up $20,000 per, and now he's recommending we buy it. So it could be a dead cat bounce, Alex. I don't know. What do you say?
I don't know. I think, somewhat less joking terms, and without sort of giving investment advice, I think the broad angle that a lot of this is going is that as the U.S. becomes more and more entangled in weird situations like the trade shit or the whole Japanese yen, whatever, the fact that the debt has exceeded military spending, or the interest in the debt, excuse me, has exceeded military spending and whatnot. And in general, the trust in the dollar is decreasing. Both Bitcoin and gold are going to start looking a lot more attractive for all sorts of players around the world. So
sure.
I can't tell you that tomorrow is going to be higher than today, and that there's not going to be bounces in all sorts of directions. But I think I don't know, in a 3 to 5 year angle, and possibly much less, I would not be surprised to see significant revaluations. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna round out.
I don't know if I grounded the segment with hard data.
No, well, we're gonna round out. We're gonna round out the money section here.
I have no opinion on Kramer's gyrations.
We're gonna round out the money section and move on to tech and traces of AI dystopia to close out the show here, Alex. The last bit here is Elon Musk's $40 trillion nightmare is suddenly coming true as the Bitcoin price soars from Forbes. Elon Musk, the SpaceX and Tesla chief executive who rode their soaring valuations to become the world's first trillionaire this year, is seeing his 40 trillion US bankruptcy nightmare come true, sending the Bitcoin price soaring. Musk, who has quietly begun a financial revolution at SpaceX, has repeatedly warned the U.S. is hurtling towards bankruptcy, going as far as to declare the U.S. dollar and other fiat currencies hopeless, saying last year he'd prefer his Vaporware America party to use Bitcoin instead. Now, as BlackRock suddenly flips on Bitcoin, billionaire investor Ray Dalio has said he fears a devastating U.S. debt crisis could come as soon as next year, and advised people to buy Bitcoin and gold to protect themselves. Quote, my guess, which I suppose will be a bad one, is that a debt crisis will come in 3 years, give or take 2. And of course, if the course we're on is not changed, Dalio, who wrote about the U.S. debt trap in his 2025 book, How Countries Go Broke, The Big Cycle, posted to X, adding he thinks we should be very worried unless spending is cut, tax revenue is increased, and interest rates are lowered. Quote, as general advice, I suggest diversifying well in asset classes and countries that have strong income statements and balance sheets that are not having great internal political and external geopolitical conflicts, underweighting debt assets like bonds, and overweighting gold.
And what are those countries, by the way?
I think that's TBD.
For me, please.
Caveat emptor, find your own countries, please.
New Zealand, is that what we're talking about?
Get a couple Kiwis there. I don't know. Like Japan is having an issue. I don't know which countries.
Down. They use in the shits, including Germany, or especially Germany. So U.S. I mean, don't even get started. Mexico and Canada have the U.S. as a border, so fuck that. China, of course, we all know, bubble this, bubble that. Russia. I mean, do I even need to get into it? Africa, never mind. Okay.
How's Madagascar doing? America? Are you up on Madagascar Venezuela? And how well that's doing? What's you got any Madagascar news?
Anything happening in Venezuela? I think they're doing okay. Cuba? I don't know. What are we talking about here, man? That's the problem. Anyway.
Dalio's warning comes after U.S. federal government debt passed $40 trillion for the first time this week, just as Treasury said it will buy back more long-term government bonds in a desperate attempt to contain soaring borrowing costs. That's the story I sort of left on the floor. I had several articles about that, but we're moving on.
So basically, I basically said exactly the same thing that he said, including the 3-year timeline, didn't I?
We're going to increase the size of the buyback, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CNBC. I would note that it could be more than the $4 billion per issue. We have a big toolkit, so we'll see. Bessent added that there was nothing magic about the $40 trillion figure, predicting that the U.S. would grow its way out of the debt despite the GDP growing at just 1.5 in the second quarter, missing expectations around 2%. Look, the debt situation is way too complicated to break down in any satisfactory way on the on this show right now. At least that would require a lot of dedicated sort of time to break down certain things. But the point is that we have a level of debt and debt issuance that literally they're buying old 30-year treasuries off the market, and just so that they can issue new 30-year treasuries to try to make sure the old ones aren't competing with the new ones. Like they're engaged in a lot of
one fascinating here's something interesting to put on the table besides the usual doom and gloom. Which is that apparently one of the headwinds that is facing Bessent is that the AI companies are attracting capital at such rates that it's literally competing with treasuries.
Exactly.
And US bonds, which means that like we'll grow our way out of it kind of has a choke point, right? Because if the US is going to grow its way out of it, which I sincerely hope, that means a lot of money has to go to the AI companies to grow their way out of it, which means that the U.S. bonds and whatever other instruments are going to be facing a shortfall of capital, which is going to increase.
But
the interest rates they're going to have to give in order to fill whatever amount they want to sell. Yada yada. You know how this goes. But it's fascinating that like the reason you're giving to people to feel better and trust you implies that things are going to get worse.
So anyway, Bitcoin might do well as everything else crumbles. Let's move on to tech. I'll try to set some time to talk about the broader economy and break down some of the treasury stuff, because that's so complicated to explain. Like many people.
Frankly, I'm telling you as much as I know, and I hear people talking about it, and it kind of goes over my head. I know I understand probably more than the average person, but like. You know, I'm feeling my limitations very actively.
Yeah. Well, in the tech sector here, Alex, we got the news story. Meta.
All right, that's more my field. Let's do
which
this.
I like to, which we know I like to hammer on. Meta ran ads for an app promising to nudify female politicians. Meta Platforms recently ran ads for an AI porn generation tool that seemingly encouraged users to create deepfaked videos resembling female U.S. politicians, despite the company's policies against ads containing sexual material. Gee, my pet peeve over the last 5 years is still a problem over there. It's the latest in a series of failures by Meta to keep advertisements for tools that produce non-consensual intimate imagery off its platforms. The tool, which is called Chromix, bills itself as an AI image styler. A voiceover for one of the video advertisements viewed by Wired promotes the tool as having no restrictions, saying, quote, all the characters are real people, and describing it as, quote, the AI that men actually use. In one ad, a woman closely resembling a prominent female U.S. politician is seen in front of a U.S. flag and the flag of the president of the U.S. above the caption, "What if she moved?" She then winks before the ad cuts to a scene of a woman with the same face performing in a pornographic video. The Chromix app, which was hosted by Apple's App Store prior to a request for comments from Wired, invites paid users to upload photos so that they can use them in the scenarios including bedroom rape and Disney love. I don't know what Disney love specifically is, but okay. Videos on the app also feature AI-generated pornographic videos of women wearing Spider-Man costumes. Requests for comment sent to a contact listed in the app went unanswered. Apple has struggled to keep similar tools which violate its policies against non-consensual intimate imagery, nudifying, and sexually explicit content off the App Store. San Francisco's city attorney sent the company a cease and desist letter earlier this summer demanding the removal of 13 specific apps and that it stop aiding and abetting the sale of explicit deepfake images. The ads were, according to Meta's ad library, exclusively targeted to male users with the tagline "Unleash Next Gen AI Magic," and were removed after Wired asked about them. in all, the account tied to the campaign ran 32 ads, according to Meta, which ran for between 5 and 46 hours. Most received 10 or fewer impressions. Now, Alex, I know the last time we discussed some of this, you were taking issue or pointing out that there could be issues with the way some of these are quantified, where it's like, an ad might be seen by a few number of people so that maybe the problem is exaggerated, et cetera, et cetera. But I would like to point out that based on my observation, it is actually not possible for companies like Wired or anyone doing an investigation to get a real quantification out, because one of the strategies that is being used in these advertisements is to open up a plethora of accounts that do the advertising for these things, such that any one video could be seen. Like, you could quantify one ad as saying like it was seen by 100, but then you might not realize that there were also like 100 other accounts doing it, so that the total would be something like 10,000. Like, you wouldn't be able to quantify them all because you don't know all of the accounts. And the accounts sometimes have normal names, and then sometimes they have weird names like AGSP, like just weird stuff in letters thrown together that have these types of things. Now, on the side of the direction, there's only so many female politicians that I'm aware of that one might want to nudify. So I'm not sure how much of a market there is. I could understand if it's like, okay, well, try to nudify AOC. I could understand that being somewhat something people might do. But let's say like nudifying Elizabeth Warren is not one of the angles, right? There's only so many female politicians I could imagine a guy might want to nudify. And I'm not gonna enumerate them all, but I'm just those two examples might paint the idea.
While I have not myself ran a porn website or looked at their analytics, my sense is that you probably don't want to know what people are looking for in general and specifically. I
am always
people are weird, my friend.
Every time Pornhub releases their like annual state by state top search category, at least some state notifies me of a category I never even knew existed. Now, Alex,
this we're gonna be politicians apparently.
We're finish up today with some traces of AI dystopia. All right,
let's do it.
And here's our first one.
Well, I bet you've never seen this U.S. map before, where Kentucky is Kentucky, Indiana is Inolano, and Tennessee is Tunisio, and the list goes on. Well, this was in the agenda given to students at a JCPS middle school. When Stacey Morris's son got in the car after the first day of school, he said something she didn't expect.
Mom, did you know that we live in Vanecki? And I said, what are you talking about?
That question sent Morris flipping through her middle schooler at Farnsley's brand new agenda, unveiling all sorts of bizarre errors.
The periodic table is just jarbled words. We have new planets called Mark.
In this U.S. map, Louisiana is Lukong, Alabama is Alatome, Illinois is Vitoise, and South Carolina is South Quanto.
Arizona is Arizona. I mean, Tennessee, there's not even the correct letters in Tennessee. Illinois starts with a V. I mean, it's crazy.
And look at these phases of the moon. Some are not legible. What should be waning crescent says waning Crescane. And the periodic table, where the names under the elements are gibberish.
Oh, we have to pay a $10 instructional fee every year in order to get this agenda. So you're making us pay for something that you used AI for. That's kind of silly, in my opinion.
Morris notified the principal the first day of school.
Still to this day, she has not responded to that email.
I reached out to JCPS Tuesday night. The district's executive officer of communications said, I spoke with the school today about inaccuracies in their agenda, and they are communicating with parents about the issue. On Wednesday, nearly a week after Morris told the school, teachers got an email warning of a lot of mistakes between pages 19 and 36, ordering them to have students rip the pages out before heading home. Only after kids came home with lighter agendas did the district email parents saying the book contained inaccurate information.
This is not a misprint. This is someone did not look at what they were handing out to the students.
Morris says it's harmed her trust with the school and district.
And it makes you think, okay, was this the only school in Jefferson County that did this? Or are we the only ones that paid attention?
So I asked JCPS if other schools received these agendas and what company they were from. The district did not respond before this story aired. Wow.
So, Alex, do you have any information on whether Elon Musk, through SpaceX, intends to land humans on Mars? Since we have some new planets out there.
Didn't he have a T-shirt saying something like "Occupy Mark" or something? That was one of his...
I think that's where I'll put the remaining traces of AI dystopia on the list for next week, and we'll get into them because they're a little bit meatier and deserve discussion. I think we'll just leave it there. Any comments on the back to school?
I mean, the thing is, like, these kind of stories are fun, but like they're going to be less and less relevant. Like the whole like AI hallucinate thing is on a receding trend, let's say. So I'm not worried for the future in this particular regard.
Other regards, yes. This one, maybe not.
So I think the hallucinates thing, like, okay, in that particular circumstance, it was older. The explanation I would have for why that creeped in is it was older image generation models where the connection between the vectors that encoded informational content were not aligned in those models, where you were getting things that were letter-like but not specifically word-based, where now they have had the multimodal models and the image generation models merged with actual informational content to now where whatever it is doing text-based rendering inside of those generations, there is actual text-based content that it is attempting to render, as opposed to image-based content attempting to get you letters. So the old model that would have resulted in this particular US map might have been trained very well to get the boundaries of the states somewhat accurate, but then the ability to get the words correct, if you can just imagine averaging out every single font of every single map that you've ever seen and attempting to recreate the words based off of all of those observations, just based off of averages, you would get something that was very crude and ugly, like the state of Vernaki or South Giacopa or whatever. Like, you would get something that is letter-like, but not really the correct information. Now,
but you see what I mean, though, right? With like all that plus agentic models and whatnot. Like, will you still get errors? Sure, but like it will start receding below the human error level.
Well, you might. My issue is going to wind up being with the ability to produce such a volume that the human ability to check for the errors, to double check or verify or go through them, is going to be something that even if we had
I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous episode, but I think Elon had a good take on this, where he said like that most of the text that we are going to come in contact with in the future is going to be AI, and that had kind of like, I think I said this last week, where I was like, we're going to need a human detector, not an AI detector. Mm-hmm. So it's coming. It's coming. You want traces of AI dystopia?
It's the inverse Turing test.
That's right. Try to figure out who's a human.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Alex,
and you'll usually figure it out because they will be doing the kind of mistakes that AIs don't make.
Alex, it's been a pleasure, a good episode. I think a lot of content that we were able to get through today. I'll put those the other Traces of AI dystopia stories on the palette for next week because they're a little bit meatier and going to deserve discussion. Other than that, I'm going to wish you a very, very dumb week. Everyone out there, have a wonderfully dumb week, and we will see you next time.
Dumb week, everybody. See you next week.